All right. We are live. What is going on, everybody? This is Randall419, the man with the million, here with a special Monday episode. And fortune favors us because we actually got some hot news that just dropped a couple hours before the show. And
what was that then?
What do you mean, what was that then? You know exactly what it was. I mean,
I have no idea.
Bonnie Ross leaving 343. Jez with the article. With the quickness. With the quickness.
The quickness. Suspiciously quickness, right?
Mm-hmm. Suspiciously quick.
Yeah.
But yeah. Thank you guys for being here. Sorry we're on a Monday, although we did say it would be on Saturday. But like I said on Twitter, send all your complaints to Jez. And I did see somebody in chat say, I can't wait to hear what Jez's excuse is this time. So what's your excuse this time, Jez?
I hit the beach.
You hit the beach?
I actually went on vacation for once, and we did plan to come back on Friday, but the train was way cheaper on Saturday for some reason. So we just decided to stay another day at the beach. So yeah. And then Rand refuses to do the show on a Sunday because that's when Rand, goes to choir practice, goes to church and shit.
No. It has nothing to do with that.
No. Oh, okay.
The reason we don't do Sundays is because Iron Lords is on Sundays.
Oh,
and
that's true.
I don't want to step on anybody's toes. Those are my guys over at ILP. And,
yeah.
So it's just like, you know what, if we can't do it Saturday, because you know what, we were doing Saturdays before Gaz and Xbox era were on Saturdays. That was our backup before they started.
Yeah. So we get 2 days, right?
Yeah. Well, technically 3, because if we don't do it, then we got to do it on Mondays. So here we are on a Monday. It's Jez's fault. I was ready to go on Friday. I was ready to come out there with my Jim Ryan impression. They only offered us 3 years of Call of Duty. I was going to come out here with Jim Ryan reading his statement and having a good time.
Is that your Jim Ryan voice?
I mean, I actually don't really know what Jim Ryan sounds. Actually, no, I do, because he is in those videos. He's like, "Welcome to PlayStation, where we charge you $50 more for the console that we made cheaper by ripping out the parts on the inside. Thank you for making us more money." And for our fans to defend us on Twitter and social media and the spaces. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So.
Alas, it is what it is.
Yeah, so we're here. Thank you guys so much. If you do us a big favor, make sure you hit the like button. Share this out on social media. Let people know that we are live on this Monday. What is this, September 12th? And It's an interesting week for Xbox. There's going to be some announcements. And yeah. I mean, so before we get into everything, just what'd you do at the beach, Jez? Did you lay around? I saw somebody really dislike the fact that you were on the beach playing Sea of Thieves. I saw that. So
yeah. I loaded it up for like 30 seconds just to take a picture. It's not like I actually played Sea of Thieves at the beach. I was just like, I'm just going to test it out. And I thought it'd make a cool picture, Sea of Thieves, the sea, at the sea. But yeah, some people are a little bit offended by my Sea of Thieves photograph at the beach. But nah, pretty much just did nothing, actually. It was really nice just to do nothing. We had a pool, did a bit of a swim. Had a massage, professional massage.
Massage,
yeah.
Huh?
Went to the gym, had a personal trainer. Got
Wait,
some
you in the gym?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, I'm getting both.
Wait, are you doing it because your guy, your co-host, is doing his best to get all healthy? Is this
well,
you got a little competition going on here?
Well, I've been lifting for a while.
Okay.
A few months now. But I thought because the offer was there for like a personal trainer to get some pointers and tips and stuff. Because I have no idea what I'm doing really when it comes to exercise and shit. And I'm not getting any younger, so I thought I'll go check it out. Yeah, so I did that. It's like a health and wellness spa where we went to. It was really nice. Although we ate lots and lots of food, so any health benefits was probably offset by all the the really fatty foods we ate. But yeah, it's a really nice time. Being away from. Well, I say being away from work, but I was still checking my emails and reading Twitter. And
you're never really away from work.
No,
I mean, hell, I was DMing you when you were on vacation. So.
Yeah, well, I like it. Like I like my job, so it's fine. It's fine. But I'm back and I'm energized and I'm ready to rock. And first day back, we got some pretty major news, which was interesting. And I wrote about Pentiment today. I wrote my preview of Pentiment, which should go live tomorrow on the site. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me for the past week. Did you do anything unique and interesting last week?
Nah, same old. Playing some Saints Row. Still not really enjoying it very much.
But you feel compelled to finish it, right?
Well,
that's what you said last week.
Yeah, I feel sort of compelled to finish it. So it's just like I'm kind of just played for a little bit and it was like, this isn't fun, and I like log off, and it's just, trying to get used to the new diet. Essentially, my sleeping schedule is a bit weird because I bought a new bed. The previous bed I had was kind of like memory foam. And this one is more of like a hybrid, so it's got like springs in it. So it's the first like few days was kind of awkward to get used to. So I haven't been sleeping the best because of it, but now like I think I've had the bed now for like a week. Now the bed's starting to feel more comfortable. So, but it's a bed that gives you like a whole year to return if you want to, where it's like if you don't like it, like that's a pretty that's a pretty good like trial essentially. Like
what if you like cover it in mayo or something and get shrimp juice all over it?
Well, that might like not work, but if it's like you don't like the bed for whatever reason, you call them up and they'll work with you to get it like donated somewhere in the community, or just like throw it out and they'll refund your money. So it's just like,
that's pretty cool.
Like when I first got the bed, I'm like, all right, like, because I think I was telling you I would not been sleeping good at all because of my back problems. Like they just kind of popped up out of nowhere, and it was just like
old age, bro.
Yeah, getting that age where everything just falls apart. But I'd lay in bed and like with this new bed, I was like, all right, this is gonna be great. Luca, she said she got this bed and she loves it, and I'm like, all right, well, I'll try this bed out. And I'd like got it, and the first thing that pops in my mind is like, I'm getting a refund for this bed. Like I just like I can't, but
you have to adjust to it.
I know
every new bed.
Yeah.
Like
so.
I got a new mattress too a few months ago, and first night was rough, but the second night was okay, and then third night was like, oh man, I love this bed, and now it's like my favorite place to be in the whole world, except of course. On the Xbox 2 podcast.
Except, of course, on the Xbox 2 podcast. Professional podcast where Jez isn't looking at chat today.
No, I'm busy.
He's playing World of Warcraft.
I'm not, man. I'm doing work. What are you talking
about? Anyways.
I'm doing important market research right now.
Yeah. So, we have a lot of topics here. We got the Jim Ryan inadequate Phil Spencer contract situation with Call of Duty. We got Bonnie Ross leaving 343. We got new Xbox dashboard, the Elite Series Core, Ubisoft and Marvel putting on a show, and a few other things. So it should be a good show. But yeah, I'm gonna get some of these super chats out of the way. Thank you guys for all the support. Thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing. Hopefully you're enjoying the videos. I put out 2 last week. Hopefully I can put out another 2 this week. So hey, like my video. My video on Thursday, I mean, PlayStation cries and complains about the Call of Duty thing. I had a lot of fun making that video because I just don't like Jim Ryan very much. Like it's just like his whole statement is just a bunch of BS, and I just had fun just ripping it apart, and I'm gonna have fun ripping it apart again for you guys. So, achievement. Although interesting, because I was talking to Jez about this before the show, because me and Jez haven't talked about this. He has a completely different take on this situation than anybody else. Like, I haven't heard anybody else talking about this anywhere. So maybe Jez has the inside info on why did Jim Ryan come out? Why did he respond? Like, is it really about Call of Duty, or is it about something else? So we'll be talking about that later. But achievement. He says in the super chat, what a great way to start the week. Glad to be here, and we are glad to have you, Achievement. Thank you for being here always and being a member. What else we got? Humdrum says, Halo is saved. Now fire Frank O'Connor and we good. Well, I mean, Halo has new leadership in place, so we'll see.
Frank O'Connor, isn't he the guy from Bungie who pretty much been there since forever? Why do they want to fire him?
Apparently, there's like I see people saying kind of that like he said some racist and sexist stuff in the past or whatever.
Oh right, okay, fire him then.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't really know.
I don't know.
I've seen people talk about that, but yeah. We'll see what the new leadership team does. I believe the guy now running 343, the studio head, is the guy that's been running Master Chief Collection, and we know how that game kind of risen from the ashes. So we'll see. CJ93 says, happy Monday to everyone apart from Jim, Lying, Crying, Ryan. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Well,
Lying, Crying, Ryan.
Well, I know. To me, he's Jim, Crying, Dance Moves, Lying, Ryan. Or maybe I should preface it with Crying Jim, Dance Moves, Lying, Ryan or something. But yeah, you got to get the whole thing in there. Got to get the whole thing. What else we got? Let's see. Drawn TJ says, hi guys, if I'm Phil Spencer, I say the FTC, look, we offered a deal extension for 3 years. They said it wasn't enough, so after 2024, COD is only available where Game Pass is. Well, we'll talk about that whole situation because I want Jez to expound upon it. Max says, I don't know about Pony Podcast, but I love seeing Xbox Podcast schedule days that aren't covered by others, not to intrude on anyone. I mean, I always try to, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, and you know, I always feel bad when we do have to do Saturdays because I know, you know, Gaz and Go Live and they do a really good show. But I always tell Gaz, that was our backup day before you showed up on the scene with the sauce. So sometimes it's just going to be like that. But we haven't really done Saturday in a while, and I would prefer like not having to step on anybody. But that's the good thing about having a show at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern, is that there's not a lot of podcasts on during that time. So we can easily just slot in on a Monday. We could easily slot in on any day, really, because nobody really goes live earlier in the day. And that's all thanks to Jez. Because, you know, he's in Germany, right? What time is it for you in Germany right now?
9:30 p.m.
9:30. Okay.
Or, man, I don't even know how to say it in German. I'm not even going to try. 9, 30, 13? I don't know. I butchered it. I butchered the German language. I'm sorry to everyone.
La Days says, in Bonnie's message, she said she was leaving in the winter but left early. Does that mean she was ousted but stepped down early for family reasons? I think it's just the family situation probably needed a more urgent matter, so she left earlier. Because, I mean, what's the difference if she leaves now in September instead of leaving in November? I mean, that's only, 2 months away? Less than, exactly 2 months away. So it's like,
yeah, I guess. Why
not hang on for another 2 months unless it was something serious that, essentially needed the attention. But yeah, we'll talk about all that stuff. I Could Take Idol has been a member for a staggering 25 months. Says, thanks for last 2 years of content. Yours is the only podcast that I listen to every week religiously. # Church of Xbox 2. Ooh, I like that. I like that
Bless
hashtag.
Ya.
Didn't you tweet something out on the Xbox 2 Twitter account where you said you wanted more Xbox 2 memes?
Yeah, we need more Xbox 2 memes on the Xbox 2 podcast Twitter handle. I need to make some.
Yeah.
But man, it's all time, man. It's all time. I just don't have the time, Rand. Just don't have the time. You know what's really annoying about vacation?
What?
Like, you go on vacation to have a break, and then you just come back to double the work. Because all the stuff that you should have done last week, you got to do this week now. I've still got Gamescom articles I'm writing, but I got a bunch of new stuff to do, and I came back to like 350 emails. Oh,
Jesus, 350! Wow.
Yeah.
Merle Film says, did you start reading Fairy Tale? I did, and I finished it yesterday. I actually finished Stephen King's new book, Fairy Tale.
The manga? Oh.
No, it's a book. I'd give it 4 out of 5.
I thought you were talking about the manga.
No.
Fairy Tale. No.
I give it 4 out of 5 stars. Look, Stephen King is probably my favorite author. He's been my favorite author for a long time. The the beginning of this book was like 5 stars for me. First person perspective with a 17-year-old kid with a dog that's like really old. Slice of anybody who like reads Stephen King knows like he's the king, no pun intended, of slice of life stuff. And it was so good for the first 250 pages. Like I read the first 250 pages in like a day. And then something happens and I would say my interest kind of lowered from 5 stars to 3. I wasn't as engaged anymore. And then for maybe like the last 100 pages, it went back up to like 4 stars because Stephen King's known not to have good endings, Jez. I'm sure you probably know that, right? That's one of the things people critique Stephen King about is his endings are usually bad. I would say this is one of his better endings. And
I've never heard that. But then again, I don't care about books.
You don't care about books.
Stephen King did The Shining, right?
Yes, he did The Shining. That's his book.
That movie has a good ending.
Well, he hates that ending he hates that movie adaptation. He hated the Stanley.
He does?
Kubrick. Oh yeah, he hated it. Yeah.
For real?
100%. Yeah, he hated Stanley Kubrick's adaptation of The Shining.
Is the book better?
I mean, the books are always better for the most part.
Better than the movie? Nah, I doubt it.
Either way, I gave it 4 stars because it started out 5 for like halfway through, and then it kind of nosedives. But then it got better at the end, and he nailed the ending. The ending's actually really satisfying. So, yep, that's done. Can't wait for the next book. But yeah, Abnormalist says, Jez, do you have any info on the Last Faith or the Gestalt Steam and Cinder release dates? I've never even.
I don't know what that is, I'm afraid. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, I've never heard of those either.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
7 says, Xbox 2 podcast meet and greet when? I mean, the problem with a meet and greet with me and Jez is the fact that there is a whole ocean in between us. You know,
we'd have to do it at E3, man.
It would have to be. There's a Microsoft Xbox event, and me and Jaz are both there, and then maybe we like anybody who's there will go out and like get some food or something, because it's not like, you know, where Jez can just hop on over and just chill, and we can just rent out a restaurant or something. So it would have to be. I mean, right now, like if Xbox does a show at E3 next year, I'm kind of 50-50 whether or not I'll go. I would go, you know.
100%. You're 100% that you'll go.
I'm like 50-50. We'll see. We'll see.
Oh, come on, man.
We'll see how
come
it goes.
on, man.
We'll see.
I do you a deal.
What?
If you go, I promise I'll never trick you into playing a Pokemon game ever again.
Well, I mean, I'm never going to be tricked into it regardless if I go or not.
I don't know about that, man.
So
don't underestimate it.
It would have to be at an Xbox event of some kind in the future.
Yeah.
So, and if we were to do one, we would talk about it on social media for sure. Bruno's been a member for 2 months. Thank you. He says, what are your expectations for Tokyo Game Show? Greetings from Brazil. Great weekend to you. Yeah, so I was going to say it's going to be an interesting week this week for Xbox. So you started off today with news out of nowhere. Bonnie Ross is leaving 343. A lot of people have wished for this. Although under the circumstances of why she's leaving, it's pretty sad. You know, dealing with family issues isn't fun, and you know, I wish her all the best, and hopefully everything with her family gets resolved with the quickness, and you know, a good outcome. There is the ID at Xbox stream on Wednesday, where they're gonna talk more about ID at Xbox games, and instead of being 4 hours long like they usually are, this one's gonna be 90 minutes, I believe. So
that's encouraging.
Yeah. So I'm you know, we'll probably get new Game Pass announcements. And then, so here, Thursday morning, the 15th is Tokyo Game Show, and Xbox does have a stream, I think. Although I'm not 100% sure on that. I do think they have something. The Xbox Game Pass, the post from the Xbox Game Pass team on Newswire last week said, check back here on the 15th for more surprises. So maybe someone like Miles gets his wish of Legend of Mana games or whatever game from 1982 he's been banging the drums about coming to Xbox. Because that's all that, like when you talk to Miles, like I talk to Miles in the DMs because Miles is great. I love Miles. Miles down PA. But like all he wants to talk about in the DMs is like, Rand, you remember Legend of Mana from 1985? you remember all these NES RPGs that I've already played hundreds of times? And I'm like, yeah, Miles. He's like, I want him to come to Xbox. It's like, okay, Miles. It's kind of like that thing, like, okay, Grandma, right? As you're like shooing it along. I hope Miles is here.
Right.
He was here earlier. So maybe there's some chance there's some Japanese games announced for Game Pass. But September 15th is also the day where Xbox can finally talk about Deathloop. Maybe. Because the 1 year anniversary is the 14th. That's Wednesday. So there's a possibility that on the 15th, they can come out and say, Deathloop is coming to Xbox. Not only is it coming to Xbox, it's coming with new content. I would imagine maybe like some definitive edition. Like maybe they'll call it the definitive edition or Game of the Year edition. Because it was a highly rated game last year. Got like an 88 on Metacritic.
I enjoyed what I played of it, but when I'm on my PC, I just think, man, World of Warcraft just right there. I could just open it, Oh well. But I'll play it when it comes to Xbox. But I'm pretty sure you are going to hear about Deathloop very soon.
I feel very confident, very good that we'll get a Deathloop announcement this week. And my prediction,
I would bet money on it.
My prediction is that we will be playing Deathloop on Xbox in Game Pass on the 20th.
That's a very specific prediction you got there, buddy.
Because that's a Tuesday, normally when games are released. It's also the day that it's hitting PlayStation Extra, that service. I believe they probably... Here's the thing, like if anybody's ever read that leaked Resident Evil 8 marketing agreement with PlayStation, it does make mention of it when talking about subservices that like Sony has the exclusive negotiation for a year. And then once that year's over, they can offer the game to competing subservices. And then as long as they also offer it to PlayStation. So it's probably one of those things where if they put it in Game Pass, which we know they are, well, at least we hope so, but I'm assuming they are going to put it in Game Pass. They probably also are contractually obligated to put it in PlayStation Extra. So, yeah. So I think on the 20th, anybody that hasn't played Deathloop, because I know there's a lot of you, because not a lot of people played it on PlayStation. So you'll be able to play it then, hopefully. And then the 27th is Grounded 1.0 release. So you got a couple first-party games back-to-back here before we head into October.
Yep.
So, yeah. That's kind of what's going on for Xbox. I don't know. Maybe there's more announcements. I mean, last week they just dropped out of nowhere the new dashboard and a new Elite controller. So maybe maybe there's more stuff. Maybe there's more things that going on at TGS than we realize. I mean, what do you think's going to go on at TGS? Do you have any like predictions? Any thoughts?
I've heard a rumor. Don't know how true it is.
Okay.
Can't confirm. But I've heard that Phil Spencer himself might be at the show. And for me, if Phil's there, either he just wants to sort of put on, sort of make the promise that they are heavily investing in E3, heavily investing in Japan. Yeah. He just wants to make the impression that they're heavily investing in Japan and Japanese games, Japanese developers, or they actually have some, pretty decent, sizable, maybe agreements to announce. What those could be, I have no idea. But I'm pretty hopeful that this year's TGS is going to be more interesting than usual for Xbox fans, and hopefully extremely interesting if you're a Japanese Xbox fan, of which there seems to be thousands more being added every week, according to Famitsu's charts. So that's TGS. But I'm quite looking forward to it.
Did you see the drama with that though? Famitsu and Media Crate have the totals for the Xbox is at half of each other.
Yeah.
So like Famitsu has Xbox Series consoles at like 300,000 sales, but like Media Create has them at like 150,000. So there's like a big discrepancy. So I don't know who's right.
That is a pretty big discrepancy.
Yeah. So
whenever I talk to people at Xbox, they always refer to the Famitsu figures, but I mean, maybe they would if it makes them look good. But I don't know if the discrepancy was that large. I doubt they'd want to publicize such erroneous results. But I don't know. It's hard to say, isn't it? You just don't know. Who do you trust? Who do you trust in today's world, Rand? I don't even know if the moon landings were real. Were the moon landings real? Do you believe in the moon landings? What if the Earth isn't even round, Rand? What if it's flat? You know, I'm only asking questions. Don't demonetize us, Google.
Okay. We got a super chat here from Kim Cruz, who says Jim Ryan is very concerned about the merger because Microsoft will acquire the smoking gun of business practices. He knows this will come back to haunt him. Okay. Supernova says, did Jim Ryan cry about Call of Duty with tears or just screaming in headquarters? Hashtag Jim Ryan crying and dying. Okay.
Jeez.
I had to parse that out. Let's see here. What is Achievement says, Jez, remake the gif of Jack Nicholson nodding and saying yes. What Jez needs to do is get me a higher resolution gif of the intro.
Yeah. I do. I'll sort that out at some point. Oh man, I've already missed the deadline. I was supposed to finish my Pentiment story by 2 hours ago, and that's not happening now. Rip.
Big Block says, it's so funny Extreme Xbox podcast keeps spreading doom and gloom on PlayStation, then Bonnie Ross here said, hold my beer. Okay.
But all Xbox fans wanted that.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I mean, pretty much a lot of Xbox fans wanted to change leadership at 343, so yeah, and I don't really I don't think anybody's we definitely haven't. We'll make fun of Jim Ryan cuz I mean, come on. It's Jim Ryan. Yeah. It's we believe in generations Jim Ryan when they're doing cross-gen. They just didn't want to get the same flack that Xbox got when you remember that when Phil was like, "Yeah, we're going to support Xbox One for 2 years or 3 years." And the media and everybody just crucified him and Matt Booty for that. Like, crucified him. There was, articles written like, Xbox has taken the joy out of next gen, right? And then Sony comes out and is like, we believe in generations. Well, specifically Jim Ryan. And everybody was like, see, Sony gets it. They know what they're doing. I'm so happy. And then only to, rip that rug out from underneath you and be like, haha, actually, no, we're cross-gen too, but we just didn't want to take the heat. So I just like making fun of Jim Ryan. That's all. I don't.
The thing is, right. This is what bothers me about fanboyism, right? When people equate making fun of a billionaire businessman to doom and gloom in their favorite plastic platform, that's when you know you've become a fanboy. It's Jim Ryan is ridiculous. He's a ridiculous character, but that doesn't mean there's doom and gloom on PlayStation because obviously they're doing very, very well. If you're upset about being doom and gloom on Jim Ryan for being a lying, dude, then that's a you problem, buddy.
Thor.net says, love the show, listen every week on demand. Rand, I was on your friends list for a decade. Met back on the OG Xbox on all 5 games in the same night. That's... I mean, I'll take your word for it. I just don't remember. You'd have to your name wasn't Thor.net, was it? It had to have been something else. Let's see what else we got here. Let me scroll down. Cool Dude Super Noob says the Earth is neither flat or spherical, it's a cuboid. But they only let certain people know that. Okay, well, thank you for the...
I don't know why, but Peter Molyneux just popped into my head. Because he made that cube game. What was it called? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I remember the game that
that freaky mobile game where everyone had to chip the cube together. That was so strange, but it's different, I guess. Something new.
And Flame says, Jez Earth-chan isn't flat. She is quite round. Ooh.
Oh man, I know exactly what he means, and I know exactly that Rand doesn't have a clue what he means, and that's hilarious.
I have no idea what it means. Wolfgang says, Rand, your
You don't
presence on
wanna know.
Xbox Air led me to buying 3 more books. That's what I'm here to do. Someone's been pushing me to make like a new channel to talk about books, and I don't know, maybe one day I will, because I do have a passion for video games and books. Someone asked me if I read Stormlight Archive, and I'm gonna answer that with, of course. I think it's the best fantasy series going right now. Love it. So, with all that out of the way, thank you guys for all the support. Thank you for being here. Make sure you hit the like button. We're gonna have a good show, and then later on, once we finish, you can all go over to Cold Eastwood and Gaz with the X&C podcast to hear some more. So you got basically 2 podcasts back to back, kind of talking about all this good stuff. It's a great day for Xbox podcasts. They're just having fun and chilling out. So let's start with something small here. You know what? Let's start with Halo Forge, because it's kind of Halo news, and I wanted to shout out a good friend of mine, good friend of Jez's, member of Xbox era, Sicka Mechanico, John. Jez, did you see 343 did a stream about Forge last week, and that they ended it by showing off John's map that he made?
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
congrats
so
to Sicka Mechanico.
John's been working with them since like 2020, I think. Forge and Forum, he's on the Forge console. I will say this. Forge is incredibly impressive. Like the new tool set they have, and like the people that have been like making all these maps for Halo Infinite for Forge. It's sort of disappointing that it's coming out so late. Like, I feel if you could have just had Forge launch with the launch of Halo Infinite, maybe Halo's in a better state than it is now, because at least the community could have been making some incredible maps. And maybe Forge is that first like step to making Halo better. But honestly, when you look at how impressive it is, I just think to myself, why did they not delay the game until this was ready? Because you know they have all the content pipeline issues that the game has. Like, if you'd have launched it with Forge, you could have then had the community make the stuff, and then you could have focused on the other things, you know? So,
thing is, like, I keep hearing that argument, but you don't have to do that in this day and age. You know? When, we live in a world where games can be updated. And does it matter that it's coming later? Maybe the worst thing is that we didn't know exactly when it was coming. Maybe the worst thing is that they didn't slap an early access tag on it or open beta tag on it. Because that's basically what they do with some other games. Like Diablo Immortal, for example. That's called an open beta, even though it's making $50 million a month. And it's sort of like their excuse for like not all of the features being implemented yet. And yeah, it's a mobile game. But that just seems to be the way free-to-play games are now. They launch in a certain way, and then they're updated and evolve over time. And maybe the worst thing here is that it wasn't communicated very well. Because, like, I don't know. There's other games that sort of communicated a little bit about managing expectations that had less content than Halo at launch, and had less content than Halo several years after launch, that are still doing pretty well. I don't know. Just a thought. Just a thought.
Oh, well, I'm not saying every single Community Forge map is going to be amazing, but some people who work and do Forge are going to make amazing maps.
I mean, look at Minecraft. I mean, this is like Microsoft's kind of like their whole MO, right? What Microsoft sees as the metaverse is user created content. And they see, like, for example, Minecraft. There are companies out there that are like multi-million-dollar companies, and all they do is build maps and tools for Minecraft. And I found out at Gamescom that I didn't know this because I don't play the game, and there's probably people in chat who do play the game who are aware of this, but apparently Flight Simulator's going down that route as well, where there's like loads of user-generated content that's, doing really well and helping, bolster the game's content base and features and stuff. And that's sort of like where Microsoft sees a lot of their properties going in the future. And I kind of feel like they dabbled a bit with it with Gears of War's escape mode, where like you can make the maps, but the tools were extremely limited. But it kind of felt like that's what they were going for to some degree, at least. But I don't know. I just kind of, when it comes to Halo stuff, I like being the contrarian.
Yeah, you do.
Have you noticed that? I like being the contrarian because I'm not really that into it. So I just like, consider another perspective, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I overlooked it. I totally forgot. Mondays also has We Bleed Green with Dirk Riggedy. He does a really good Xbox podcast as well. That's usually on at 5:30. So got to give a shout out to them. I'm usually on there once a year after E3 because Dirk's a good guy, and so are the guys on the panel. You know what? Screw it. Like, since we're on Halo, we're talking about Forward. Shout out to Sicko Mechanico for that map. Let's just dive right into the Halo news. Okay, we're on the subject matter. So
let's get it out of the way.
Let's get it out of the way. So I'm gonna bring up Bonnie Ross's tweet. I wonder if she's trending or 343's trending. So about 2 hours ago, Bonnie Ross tweeted this. While I had hoped to stay with Halo until we release the winter update, I'm letting you know I will be leaving 343 and attending to a family medical issue. I'm incredibly proud of the work everyone at 343 Industries has done with Halo Infinite, the Master Chief Collection, the Halo television series, and so much more. It has been an honor to serve alongside the team for the last 15 years and to be a part of a universe that I love. Thank you to everyone in the Halo community for your support. Halo's future is bright. I cannot wait for all of you to experience what we have in store and to cheer alongside you as a fan at the Halo World Championship in October. So that's what she tweeted. And
kind of sad, to be honest.
Well, yeah, because of the reason she's leaving, right? I don't like to see anybody have to leave or have anybody really have family medical issues because I've had my own family medical issues, so it's definitely not something fun to experience. So I wish her family all the best. But I mean, like people have been, saying that 343 needed a leadership change, and instead of just Bonnie Ross being the head of all of 343, Jez, you wrote an article because you had more information about what was going on, right?
Yes, indeed. I had some exclusive additional information about what's going on post Bonnie, which is they're actually splitting her role into 3 parts. And they're not going to have like an overall head of all of 343 anymore. There's going to be a studio head of the games. That's Peter. I can't pronounce his surname. Hintz, I think his name is. Pierre. Sorry, Pierre Hintz is going to. I probably pronounced that wrong, so I apologize. But he's going to be the studio head. But also some of Bonnie's other responsibilities, like business and operations, that's going to someone called Elizabeth Van Wyck. I probably pronounced that wrong as well. And then there's also Brian. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his surname, but there's a theme here where I can't pronounce people's names. But there's a lovely chap called Brian who's going to be head of franchise. So they've kind of split Bonnie's roles into 3. And they're all going to form part of the senior leadership team alongside Joseph Staten, who is head of creative, I want to say. So like there's like it's almost a senior leadership team council, and all of them answer to your boy, Mr. Bowie, Matt Bowie. So I think that's sort of like the way it's going to go for Halo. Hopefully that gives them a little bit more granular oversight over all the different Halo operations. Because I do kind of feel like Bonnie had quite a lot of responsibility for one person, potentially, maybe. And maybe that's why some things slipped through the cracks. Like I mentioned last week, I'd heard, some things weren't communicated very well back in the Chris Lee days. It's quite hard for me to get sourcing on some of these aspects of stuff. maybe Jason Schreier's doing some, more in-depth investigative work on that right now. But that's what I heard, is that there was some miscommunications taking place, and that's why some things that were communicated and promised that perhaps shouldn't have been promised. But either way, it shouldn't have happened in any case. And maybe, hopefully, you want to hope, don't you? I want to hope for all my Halo fans out there that this leads to a better handling of the live service and future games. Hopefully, I think like Halo definitely needed a breath of fresh air in any case, and maybe a new perspective. But I also think some of Halo's problems, are related to Microsoft's corporate structure. The fact that 343 is literally part of Microsoft's campus, and it sort of puts them in that sort of, I don't know what to call it, stuffy corporate atmosphere that I kind of think betrays a lot of Microsoft's products, not just Xbox, but also Windows and maybe Surface and everything. Because that's what corporations do sometimes. Sometimes they can be very inefficient and slow to work on certain things, especially when I think games are very dynamic and they need a little bit more freedom. I don't know. I'm speculating a little bit here, but I just want to, huff a bit of that hopium, for Team Halo. But like you said earlier, Forge is looking really good. I think Forge is going to deliver a lot of great content to the game and a lot of, new reasons to play, and at least tide people over while they do get a better system in place for getting the live service up to scratch. So, yeah, that's basically all the extra information I had. But how do you feel about this? As you're a Halo fan, you're someone who's disappointed in the live service. You said earlier you're not planning on playing it until
I'm not. My multiplayer tastes have kind of evolved over the course of time. Halo was my favorite multiplayer game. I played it, as we all know, every day for a year. For Halo 2, lost my job over it. Right, Halo 3, thousands of hours. Halo Reach, thousands of hours. I played Halo 5 for a good 300 or 400. I think some has to do with how strict some of the what do they call it? The SSBM, like what's that called? The
contractors?
No, like I don't know what it's basically the system that like ranks you.
Oh, the match MMR system.
Yeah, the MMRs. I've never been a fan of that, and like the problem is a bunch of the friends I play with are just really good, right? Like Maka's really good. Magic is a god, a literal god at FPSs. James Shields is incredible. So like you get together to play Arena or big team battle, and I play with 3 of them. I'm playing against people way over my skill level. And it's just, It's like a sweat fest, but like I'm getting destroyed because I'm not on Magic's level, let alone Maka's level, let alone James's level. So it's just, the game just becomes it's basically like me smacking my head up against the wall. And it's not fun. So I basically stopped playing. And I was like, all right, well, I'll come back for Battle Royale. But I can still like view and be like, man, like, you promise 10-year plan, you're a live service, but you're not really offering a lot of live service content. We can, you can sit back and objectively view like what's wrong with Halo Infinite. So, a lot of people have been asking for leadership change. Chris Lee left. Joseph Staten came in as the creative director. He's been making changes. I mean, every single week it seems like somebody new is leaving 343. And, the bombshell drops today. Bonnie Ross, someone, who founded, I mean, that's her studio. She founded it, right? Like, she founded that studio.
Co-founder, yeah.
Yeah, so you kind of thought
15 years ago.
Yeah, you kind of thought like, well, she would be there forever, as long as she wanted to be. Because you could make the argument that, like, well, she's not really in charge of the game. She's in charge of the people in charge of the game that she oversees. But, at some point, like, if Halo Infinite's not doing well, or not making, its revenue projections, or not being played by as many people as they think, and if you think the Halo IP has been mismanaged, it's like sometimes you got to make a change. and it's awful that the change is coming because she's leaving because there's a family issue. But then you look at, okay, now 3 people are taking over her job, so you get a sense of like how big her job actually was, right?
Yeah.
And Chris in the super chat says the new head of 343, Pierre Hintz, was a big part of the team behind the Master Chief Collection's comeback in the last few years. He's hopeful.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
So you got true. Joseph Staten as creative director. Like I said, you have this Pierre guy who is behind the team that brought Master Chief. You know, after they launched Master Chief Collection to disaster, which is like another kind of stain on the legacy of 343. They didn't give up, and they came back and they made it what it should have been always. So it's like, okay, he's in charge. And with, some of the stuff, you get maybe a different viewpoint of what Halo should be, different new ideas with new people in. The thing is, like, I don't think Halo's going to be fixed overnight, right?
No, of course not.
So I know some people are like, well, yeah, Bonnie's gone, I'm going to get back in. But it's like, well, like, it's not going to get fixed overnight. Content takes time to plan and make and to come out. But where you'll see this is potentially a couple years from now, when they can actually implement their own decisions about where they want to go with Halo. And I think maybe the next biggest thing preventing Halo from being as good as it can be is, like you mentioned, the corporate structure, the whole contractor situation. They have these contractors at Xbox at 343 that can only work there for 18 months. And then you got to leave. So you bring people in, teach them all you can about Halo, about how you work with this slip space engine, which by all accounts isn't the best to work with. And you train them up and they do stuff, and then they just are gone. So you can't get a real vibe or
flow.
Yeah. So it's like you're constantly replacing people because people are. So it's like, and then you got the regular people leaving. So okay, you have a change of leadership, so maybe new ideas are coming in, but then you're still kind of at this point where, like, the overall Microsoft corporate structure of contractors, that needs to change. And it's changed, it's false. So it's like, I think for the state that Halo's in, and has been for years, I think there's a lot of people that shoulder blame for it. I think Bonnie Ross can be blamed. I think Chris Lee could be blamed. I think Matt Booty has some blame. I think Phil has some blame. And you know what? I think Satya Nadella has some blame. Because at the end of the day, he's the one in charge and making decisions of the contractor situation.
I even think, what's his face has some blame. What's his name now? I can't even remember his name. Do you know what I'm talking about? The guy who set Xbox One's budget really low.
Oh, Terry Myerson?
Terry Myerson, yeah. Even he's got some blame for Halo 5 and shit, I think. But, I do think, like I said on Twitter, I think Bonnie is unfairly scapegoated in some ways. People really want to point blame at someone, but honestly, I don't think it's fair to put it all on Bonnie. I think it's, she does have some blame, maybe, for the state that Halo's in right now. Or maybe not even, maybe state's the wrong word, because I still think there's a fun game inside the lack of live service. But I think, like, she's partially to blame, at least for the squandered potential. But then so's everyone else you mentioned, So's Phil, so's Satya, and then there's Terry Myerson, and that probably had a knock-on effect. And probably, like, because I said last week on the show that there's some kind of legal issue in Washington why they can't have contractors more than 18 months. And someone got in touch with me and said, actually, it's something to do with Microsoft being sued by an ex-contractor or a group of ex-contractors who felt like they were being treated as full-time, but they were never given the option to upgrade to full-time. So then Microsoft implemented this sort of draconian policy, which really hurt their ability to sort of have these freelancers and contractors for longer periods of time without having to fully hire them and stuff. And maybe you could make the argument that, yeah, maybe they should fully hire them, but, like, I don't really know how the game industry works with regards to that, because I'm kind of thinking, like, do you always need concept artists throughout the whole project and stuff like that, or is that better to hire them on a contractor basis? I honestly don't know. anyone wants to reach out to me and enlighten me on that topic, I would love to hear from you. But so you could even place a bit of blame on whoever let that whole situation unravel to the point where it resulted in litigation, you know. But Halo was uniquely impacted by a perfect storm of all this bullshit, you know. And I do genuinely believe it's unfair to leverage all of your blame at Bonnie Ross. It's just sort of, it's an unfortunate series of events. And I think, like, honestly, a lesser studio head, the situation would be even worse. That's my thinking on it.
Mhm.
But it is what it is, and you know, final thoughts from me. Hopefully, we're on onwards and upwards to better times for Halo. Hopefully, we'll see the potential reach that this franchise clearly has. I'm a self-avowed Halo skeptic. I don't know what else to call it.
Self-avowed Halo skeptic isn't exactly what I would say you are. A self-avowed Halo hater is more like it.
I don't hate Halo. I played all of them except for ODST. And I really like Halo Wars, actually. I really, really like Halo Wars. Like, I think Halo's got massive potential in strategy. But yeah, I just hope that for the fans, and you know, because a lot of you guys are big Halo fans, unlike me. I hope for you guys that Halo reaches its full potential, and hopefully the new team will have a better crack at it. And hopefully Microsoft will open its mind a bit more to whatever corporate issues are preventing Halo from reaching its full potential. Hopefully all that stuff gets fixed. And hopefully we end up in a situation where a year from now we can think of Halo Infinite in a sort of almost like a No Man's Sky kind of light, or a Halo Master Chief kind of light, you know, where it's things have dramatically improved. So, but yeah, it's like you said, it's going to take a bit of time. But that's my final thought on that. You got any final thoughts, Rand?
You know, just that. I hope, you know, better days are in the future for Halo. I wish Bonnie Ross the best, and hopefully the family situation resolves itself. And it's kind of like, yeah, man, that's a tough way to leave, right? Your legacy, you built the studio. Yeah. You know, you finally are getting some transmedia, like television stuff out there with the TV show. Although I kind of do wish they did more spin-offs. You know, I look at Minecraft with Minecraft Legends and Minecraft Dungeons, and it's like, man, we need more like Halo games. Like, there should have been more Halo spin-offs outside of just like Halo Wars. Like, there should have been. You know?
Halo Wars 3. We need Halo Wars 3.
Well, okay, you could say we need Halo Wars 3, but like, why isn't there like a Halo horror game? Why isn't there like other spin-off like shooters? Like, why isn't there a Halo Lego game? I know remember we saw the prototype of like Halo Mega Bloks. Like, why not? Like, you should have been doing that to bring younger kids into the universe. Like, there's so many things you could have done. It just kind of seems like, you know, wasted potential. And that's kind of just like, you know, I know Halo's kind of been on the decline, and it's just like, will it ever go back up, or is this kind of the way it is? Hopefully.
I think it'll get back to where it could be or should be. Just have to wait.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I think everybody wants Halo to get better, and you know, for those of you that wanted, you know, change, the change is here. We got 3 new people running the show. So it sucks because I'm going to say you're just going to have to wait. Nobody likes hearing they have to wait. But yeah, I mean, the way 343 is situated and the content pipeline and what they got coming up, definitely one of those things where it's not going to be fixed overnight. But new leadership means, you know, potentially new ideas and better things. Maybe they know, better ways to, or what the fans want, and they can make, you know, more better decisions. So we'll see where it goes. But this was definitely a shocker, though. I was surprised. I was like, what? Yeah, because I did not expect her to leave. So
I want that Halo horror spin-off with the flood that everyone talks about. Where's the Halo horror spin-off? That'd be cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you could do with Halo. I mean, the universe is so vast. You could do prequel stuff, you could do future stuff. You don't necessarily have to do Master Chief stuff. You know, you could keep Master Chief as the main line, but there's so many things you could do. I always kind of looked at it as like a missed opportunity. You weren't doing any of those things. But
you could have like Locke and what is it, Oni, ONI, or whatever. The sort of intelligence Spartans, like make a stealth game with those dudes. I don't know. Whatever.
yeah. Jacqueline Bryant in the super chat says somebody has been pushing you to make a book channel. I have a name, damn it. Yeah, he's been pushing me to make a book channel, but you know, we'll see if I do. Speaking of books, how do you think that Tom Clancy's feeling right now?
Oh yeah, because Tom Clancy, his games haven't been doing particularly great.
Well, I don't think he necessarily meant that. I think he's talking about like the idea of Tencent owning 10% of Ubisoft, which owns, I
suppose,
you know,
his brand, right?
His brand. So, yeah.
It's kind of a weird situation.
It is. Tencent's got their hands in everything, man. They're never going to stop. Biff says, finally catching you guys live. I work on Fridays. Well, thank you for being here, catching us live for I guess maybe the first time on a Monday.
This is why it's cool to sometimes do other days, because people who can't usually make it are able to make it every now and then. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah. We got Sloth, by the way. Twice, it looks like. Once for the Deathloop thing and once again for your Phil thing. So, shout out to Idle Sloth. Does he have his account back?
I don't know. I know he had to make a new account for the DMCA violation, but...
Yes. So make sure you follow Idle Sloth for all his slothing, because he basically retweets all the news out there. Achievement says, what are your all thoughts on the Asobo racing rumor? Yeah, so I was on Xbox Era when the one and only Special Nick dropped this one, which has taken its own sort of like life, which is always interesting to see. So Nick on Xbox Era said that he had heard or was told by somebody, his source, that Asobo was in the prototyping stage of making a racer for Xbox. Now, you know, when I heard that, I was thought to myself, well, surely, like, you got Forza Motorsport, you got Forza Horizon, you got your sim, you got your arcade. You don't need Project Gotham Racing to return. But there is one sort of game that Xbox, we've been talking about they should make, especially with all the IP they're about to own when the Activision deal goes through, and that's a kart racer.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, maybe they're making a kart racer. I don't know. It's the rumor is pretty loosey-goosey, because it's one of those things where we won't know Nick is right for years, and like it's in the prototyping stage, so it could easily get canceled. So it's kind of just like, who knows? But then I saw people like take his rumor, spin it for their own, and be like, rumor, Asobo is being acquired by Microsoft. Like, they will be acquired as soon as the Activision Blizzard deal goes down, because they're working on a kart racer for Xbox. It's like, you literally just took Nick's rumor and made it your own and added the acquisition onto it simply to get likes and retweets and clout on Twitter.
Oh, man.
You know? Like, what?
Ain't it the way? It's always the way, bro.
The problem is, I think we kind of know by now, like, these acquisitions, they don't really leak too much beforehand. They just happen. Yeah. You know? Sure, you can make an educated guess that maybe Asobo's a studio that Microsoft would target or own because they're working with them. They got a 10-year deal for Microsoft Flight Sim. They're just about to put out Plague Tale Requiem, so maybe they can move on to a new game, right? Yeah, you could be like, oh, well, they're working with them, so maybe they could buy them. But it's just like, you just took Nick's thing and said they're going to acquire him and stuff. So, you know, we'll see. I do think Xbox probably needs to make a kart racer.
I mean, it makes sense, right? With all the IP they're about to own.
But I mean, wasn't one of the Activision teams the one who made Crash Nitro kart racing game? Like,
was that Toys?
I don't think was that Toys. Was that Beanox?
Oh, it might have been Beanox.
And maybe it was either way. Like you would have an internal team who's actually made a kart racer.
Yeah, so it's almost like this rumor doesn't make any sense.
You know, that doesn't say it doesn't make any sense, but you know, people have been asking for a kart racer as well as like a Smash Brothers clone with Xbox characters, because you could put a lot of those characters in a kart racer. You got, I mean, how many Halo characters could you have? You could have 343 Guilty Spark, Cortana, Master Chief, Arbiter, a Grunt, an Elite, right? You could have Gears characters like Kate or Marcus. You could have Senua. You could have you have all these franchises. You could have so many characters for a kart racer. It's ridiculous. Banjo, like all the old rare stuff. Like you could have so many characters you can put into a kart racer. It's like I mean, granted, it needs to be good, because when you get a bad kart racer, man, they're bad.
They're really bad.
Something they probably need to do now. I see Gaz in the chat. It says Ubisoft is now charging $70 for AAA games starting with Skull and Bones. So let's take a look at this.
Ubisoft's doing what?
Ubisoft is raising game prices to $70 for AAA games. Says here, in an interview with Axios, Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot discussed a variety of topics, including game prices. Last year, Ubisoft stated that it had not committed to any potential price hike, stating that it was analyzing the competitive dynamics of the last quarter and was still looking at new opportunities. Now it appears the company has made its decision. Ubisoft will be raising its game prices to $70 starting with Skull and Bones in November. However, it appears that this price will only apply to the big AAA games. I mean, that was inevitable.
That's interesting, because Mirage is listed at $50 right now, but also some of the listing information on Assassin's Creed Mirage was wrong, because it was listed as having gambling, but apparently that's incorrect per comment from Ubisoft I got earlier. So,
I mean, it was only a matter of time. How many of these other publishers are doing 70? Sony's doing 70, EA's doing 70, 2K's doing 70.
Microsoft's like the holdout.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of any other ones that are still doing 60. Ubisoft was doing 60, but now they're doing 70. I wonder if Microsoft is going to have any political pressure behind the scenes to raise their prices as well, Jez.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And that actually kind of feeds into my theory about tap dancing Jim Ryan and why he's really mad about the whole thing with Call of Duty, because I don't think it's about worrying if he's going to lose the game. Rand.
I know. We'll talk about that. But we have over 1,400 people watching. We appreciate each and every one of you. But we only have like 380 likes. Let's get those likes up. Come on. Just
smash that like button.
It's free. Just hit that little like button. Get it up. Let's get it up to 700 before the show ends, or 600 or something. That'd be great. So yeah, $70 games. Yeah, I mean, it was only a matter of time. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Maybe Microsoft can remain the lone holdout, but you could make the argument maybe it makes Game Pass look better if games are more expensive. Yeah. I mean,
maybe it increases people's feelings of accomplishment and achievement. Yeah. What was it that EA said?
I forget. TB in the super chat says, just popped in to say hello. We'll listen back later. I feel for Bonnie Ross. Things are rarely one person's fault, and it's not like she wanted to make a bad game.
Yeah.
Indeed. Let's see what else. All right, so I believe let's talk. Well, since you mentioned when we're on the Ubisoft subject, let's talk about Ubisoft. Let's talk about it, because they did their showcase on Saturday. It was an hour and a half long, and Jesus. Oh my! Did you watch it, or were you still away on vacation?
When was it? I was on vacation, I think. Well, I didn't watch it either way. But I heard that it was very slow.
Yeah, it was awful. I mean, let's straight up get to it. Like, you watch these things and you appreciate Xbox's conference a million times more, because Xbox just gets right to it. Here are the games. Here are the trailers. Bonnie, Sarah Bond talks for 2 minutes. Phil Spencer talks for 2 minutes. Like, it's all just games. These other companies, for whatever reason, feel like they need to get these people the spotlight, and you got these like two people that just like talk and talk and talk and talk with this cringe ass like stuff they're saying. I'm just sitting there like rolling my. It's like I'm not here to watch you two. I'm here to like get some gaming information and see some stuff. And it's just like I'm sitting here like watching, you know, someone with maybe a background and, you know, maybe communications write a horrible script for them to make bad jokes, right? And then, you know,
just heavily scripted.
And then it's like, hey, let's move it over to see some Skull and Bones. But then you go over to Skull and Bones, and then someone else talks for 5 minutes before you see any footage. It's like, all right, now Just Dance 2. And then they talk about Just Dance 2 before showing Just Dance 2. So they showed like Rabbids, the Rabbids game for the Nintendo.
Is that the turn-based one?
Yes, the turn-based one. They showed off Just Dance for the new one this year, which I believe is next gen only, or current gen, no longer coming to the older consoles. They talked a little about Skull Bones, and they showed a bunch of Twitch streamers, I think, because they were like, yeah, we've been testing this game for 2 years now. You know, and we're so excited. Like, okay. What else did they show? Well, the big thing, obviously, that everybody's talking about is the Assassin's Creed showcase. And even still there, you had people just talk. Which I get because, like, the trailers that they actually had were very short and minimal. So, the big game is Assassin's Creed Mirage. Oh, yeah, and there was a whole bunch of mobile stuff. That's it. Like, both the Disney thing and this Ubisoft stuff is, like, mobile. We got mobile Rainbow. We got a mobile Division game, a mobile Rainbow Six game. We got mobile this and mobile that, mobile Assassin's Creed. There was a whole bunch of mobile stuff at the Disney show. Like, look, I'll be the first one to say I understand why they're making mobile games. The mobile games will probably make more money than any of the console games they make. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not the target audience for the mobile stuff, so it makes it seem... So to me, it just makes it, like, more boring. Like, I'm watching this stuff, and it's like, do you want to play Rainbow Six on your phone? And it's just like, no. I do not want to play Rainbow Six. What about Assassin's Creed? No. What about Avatar? No. Like, what are you making all this mobile stuff? Oh, and by the way, Valiant Hearts, which was an amazing game on the Xbox One gen. It's like, never thought it would get a sequel. They announced a sequel. But exclusive,
really?
Yeah, but exclusive to Netflix.
What?
Exclusive to Netflix. No, the game.
One of those,
the game is exclusive to Netflix.
But is it like one of those interactive movies like Minecraft story mode?
No, because they also have they announced also a partnership with Netflix. They also got an exclusive Assassin's Creed game coming, as well as an Assassin's Creed TV show. Because you know how Netflix started their gaming kind of division.
Well, it's just Android games, isn't it?
So it's just mobile games on Android phones, yeah, or whatever, or iOS phones. So it's like, oh man, Valiant Hearts 2, and it's like mobile. I'm like, what? So like, I get it. I understand why they're doing it. That's where the money is. The investors like that whole thing. But as someone who's not into that, it just makes these shows horrible to sit through and watch because everything's just mobile, right? What they showed,
mobile gamers aren't even watching it.
Yeah, and the people who would actually play this aren't watching this because the people that play mobile aren't that engaged to watch this stuff. So it's like, who's this really to show off to? The investors, maybe? The stockholders? Like, hey, we're doing mobile because the mobile gamers sure ain't watching it. So yeah, the Assassin's Creed stuff, which was kind of the big takeaway. They announced Assassin's Creed Mirage with the CGI trailer, which I think I've said I don't mind CGI trailers if it's your announcement trailer your first time. Like, I'm fine with that. It's coming next year, although they didn't really give a time frame. And it actually, it actually has me excited. Shout out to Ham Solo Gaming for the super chat. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. And the reason it's exciting to me is because, okay, you've had I was big fan of the early Assassin's Creeds, right? I thought 1 was good but not great, but then like Assassin's Creed 2 was great. You know, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood was great. Assassin's Creed, like those early Assassin's Creeds were fantastic, and I love them. Yeah. And then they got away from that. Assassin's Creed Black Flag was another one that I thought was fantastic. And they went to the kind of bloated open world RPG, which, a lot of people like. Valhalla is like the best-selling Assassin's Creed ever. I loved Odyssey. I put 120 hours in Odyssey, but I couldn't get into Valhalla, so I just kind of stopped it. And I was sitting there being like, man, I really wish they would make, go back to the roots. And that's what Mirage is doing. So Mirage is basically a stealth game, they were saying. It's a narrative-driven stealth game rather than an RPG like Valhalla and Odyssey. It's like only 15 to 20 hours long, supposedly. But yeah, it seems to be a return to the format of the originals. And then they also had talk about the future of Assassin's Creed with Assassin's Creed Infinity, which is like a back end. It's not actually a game. And they announced...
that like what Hitman is doing with the Hitman games, where it's more like, you can play Hitman 1, 2, and 3 with just like a single interface. Is that what that is?
Something like that, yeah. Like, I don't know. They showed some Animus stuff, which maybe that's like what Infinity is, where like you choose the time period you want to play in. But they announced Assassin's Creed Red. And that's got a lot of people excited because they're finally going to Japan only after Sony made an Assassin's Creed in Japan already. like Sony beat you to the punch. I'm sorry to say Ubisoft. But yeah, Assassin's Creed Red in Japan. We got like a 20-second trailer. Okay, I'm excited, right? Japan. You had the mobile game Assassin's Creed Jade in China, whatever. And then you had Assassin's Creed Hexy, which is kind of occultish. I think the rumors
No. It's not Hexy. It's Hexa.
Hexa? Okay.
It's German.
Okay.
And it's German for witch.
So it's like during like the witch trials of like Salem or like that time period?
No. It's set in the Roman period, I believe. So it's like Roman, maybe the Catholic witch trials, Roman Catholic. I don't know. I don't know actually. It's something like that. But yeah, it's witches, German barbarians, that kind of time period. It's Rise basically. It's Assassin's Creed Rise. So I'm quite excited for that as a German resident. Who's my girlfriend works in a medieval museum as well. So
I think that was it for the Assassin's Creed stuff. They mentioned like the newer games won't have any sort of Desmond future storylines because like newer players may not know about it. It's like, yeah, because you stopped doing it. I may be one of the few people. Let me ask chat, out of everybody who played the Assassin's Creed games in the early days, how many of you actually cared about the future storyline? Like, sure, I didn't care about it in Odyssey or the Valhalla or Origins, but I actually sort of look forward to the Desmond segments in the previous Assassin's Creed games because it gave those games like a different meaning, because otherwise you're just like in a historical historical world, like doing whatever you want. I like the idea of like, okay, you're using tech to solve a problem, and the problem you're solving is like you need to find something in the past. Like, I actually sort of thought that was really cool implementation of like making Assassin's Creed gamified, right? Where it's like, you're in the Animus, we need to get something that your ancestors know, so like you're back there basically cosplaying as an assassin. And it was like, okay, now it looks like a game because it is a game, but it made sense, at least in the story of what they were trying to do. And I was like, man, the Desmond, because I thought it would all come together. Desmond would eventually would lead to like a future Assassin's Creed game where Desmond would be going around with all these powers and stuff. I really liked the future stuff, but I guess a lot of people didn't. I know it looks like a lot of people, like you said, Caloric says, I love the Desmond segments, but All Might said, I hated the Desmond segments, and someone else said they hated it. So it's like, maybe split. Some people loved them, some people liked them, some people hated them.
I liked them personally. Partially because, well, does it count as spoiler? It's so long ago now.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
But like the sort of the sci-fi aspects of it, I like that stuff. I won't spoil it if anyone fancies going back and play them, because they're all on backwards compatibility, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I quite like them. But I also get why they're sort of doing away with it, because for me, it kind of ended with Desmond's arc. I wasn't really interested in any of it after Desmond, so maybe it's for the best. I don't know.
Yeah, so that was the Ubisoft showcase. And I there was a point in time in the past where they put out one of the better shows. And now, like, you watch
How long
these
ago was that?
I mean, maybe during like the 360 early Xbox, because like the early Xbox One gen, like here's Watch Dogs, and we all like, oh my god, look how Watch Dogs looks, right? Or here's Division, and you're like, whoa, Division, right?
Whoa, dude, like that.
He took cover against a cop car and closed the door, bro. Like what?
Oh my god, and the door bullet holes.
Dude, but we're making fun of it, but people legit were like, whoa, look at the interaction, man.
Why with that accent?
I don't know. It's because
whoa, dude, he's like surfer dude or something.
Sometimes those accents, but I'm just saying, like, there was a point in time where like they were putting out content like that, and it was just like people were excited by what Ubisoft had to show before like everything sort of went downhill. You're like, oh, what's the next Far Cry? Oh shit,
Yeah.
But now it's like since the downfall of E3 and each one of these people are doing their own showcases, it's like you get the sense that maybe you shouldn't do your own showcases. Now you understand why you kind of went with Nintendo or Xbox and PlayStation, because you didn't really like have enough for your own.
Yeah.
So then, since we're talking about the showcases, there was Disney. Disney had a showcase, and it was bad too. But the only so if I would give the Ubisoft show a D, which is what I voted on. I voted on Jeff Keighley's poll as a D because I was just like, this is awful. I voted the Disney show a C simply because it was only 20 minutes long, so they didn't waste that much of my time, right? And I find it hilarious because it was like going into it, people were like, yo, Spider-Man 2 gonna be there. Wolverine gonna be there. Star Wars Jedi Survivor gonna be there. Like, they had these, like, gameplay of Amy Hennig's Captain America Black Panther, like, gonna be there. Like, people, like, Indiana Jones gonna be there, right? Like, all these, like, huge wishes. Like, they're gonna be at the show. And you know what was at the show? A bunch of mobile games. Like, seriously, like, half the announcements were mobile games.
You laugh, but dude, there's a Disney game absolutely blowing up on Xbox right now.
Yeah, the Disney. What's it called? Dreamlight Disney something or other?
Yeah, it's I can't remember what it's called, but it's like Disney Animal Crossing.
Well,
like everyone,
that's
like a lot of people I
yeah.
know is absolutely loving that game.
Well,
so
yeah, no, that was at the show, and people are enjoying it. I think I saw it was pretty popular in the Xbox Game Pass or whatever, but. I mean, people tuning in to see, Spider-Man 2, and didn't see it, or Indiana Jones. People ask me in DMs, like, you think there's any chance we see Indiana Jones? And I just laugh. Like, no, 0% chance we see Indiana Jones. Like, what? Like, that game is going to be shown off by Xbox. It's not going to be shown off at a Disney Marvel thing. Like, what? So, I guess the biggest announcement was Amy Hennig's, she of the Uncharted fame, which... fantastic games. They announced her game. It is set in World War II, and Black Panther, Captain America, and 2 other people, and that's it. You don't even know the name. They didn't even announce the title. It was just, this is the game we're working on. And
seems quite early.
Yeah, well, if you remember the announcement trailer for Indiana Jones, you remember.
Yes.
Just dropped out of nowhere. It panned right to left. Like, you saw the whip, you saw the hat, and then it was just like Indiana Jones, right? It panned right to left. This one was like, same thing, but it panned left to right. Oh, started out. Oh, there's the Eiffel Tower. Like, oh, there's Captain America's shield. Oh, there's the claw marks. And it was just like, yeah. So it was like literally the same exact thing. So an announcement trailer. And then it was over 20 minutes. And people were like, what? Yeah, people were not feeling like the mobile stuff because they announced like Marvel Snap from, I think, the Pokemon Go devs was like that's what they ended the show on. They ended the show on a Marvel mobile game
from the Pokemon devs.
From the Pokemon Go devs, yeah. But like, it wasn't like we got to saw gameplay. It was just like 3 people in the park. One of them like
So it's a Pokemon Go game?
Captain
Again?
America. Yeah, presumably. I don't know what they're gonna do, but
Man, do you think they'd learn? Every single Pokemon Go clone has failed. Every single one. There's only room in the market for one Pokemon Go game, and it's called Pokemon Go. There's just no way this game does anything. I don't know why they keep trying, because it's not going to happen for them.
Yeah, and doesn't Pokemon Go make a lot of money? I think.
Yeah, it does. It's still doing pretty well. But it's the only one that does well. The Harry Potter Pokemon Go game failed. There's been loads. The Minecraft Earth failed. I don't know why they're bothering.
Let's see. Lucas Alcindo in the Super Chat says, that Assassin's Creed showcase was horrible. 3 games and no gameplay. Mirage can be bought, but no one has seen a second of the game. And then, yeah, there was the whole thing with the rating. Do you think there's kind of something behind that, Jez? Because, like, they started off the stream, and the stream said adult only. The game gets rated on the Xbox store. It says adult only with real gambling, even though, as far as we are aware, as far as I'm aware, as far as everybody knows, these Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, they don't sell adult-only games, right?
Yeah, as far as I know, they don't. And, you know, as far as I know, this doesn't include any real gambling, and it's probably not going to get an adult-only rating. So I have no idea. Maybe they just did it playing on the safe side, you know, because a lot of the games were unrated. And, like, probably you'd have to imagine Assassin's Creed Mirage is going to carry a mature rating.
Yeah.
Because Ubisoft Assassin's Creed games are often, you know, interesting. And when it comes to, well, I say interesting. What I mean is that they're quite spicy, you know, spicy games. So that's probably going to be adults. It's going to be mature rating. So maybe they just slapped adults only on there just for safety's sake. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird because they came out today and said, "Hey, no, it's not rated by the ESRB yet," and whatever. And also at the Disney show, I forgot to mention, Delilah announced the game.
Yeah, Delilah.
Now,
yeah.
Delilah is a studio that did Battletoads, and they're doing like a Switch exclusive. It kind of looks like it's ripped right from the Battletoad engine. Some like 4-player co-op, like Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, you know, Goofy thing. And it makes me wonder, does that mean they're not doing Battletoads 2? Because clearly they're not a big enough studio to be doing 2 projects at once.
Yeah.
Does that mean Battletoads 2? Does that mean it's just one and done, one Battletoads game, and that's it? You didn't set the world on fire?
Yeah, probably. I can't see there being a Battletoads 2, but who knows? Maybe the right
to say if the Sony Square Enix acquisition happens after Sony's recent comments to regulators.
Nah. Microsoft doesn't give a crap.
I mean, like, if they bought, like, you can make the argument right now that Sony owns Square Enix because it's not like we're getting Square Enix games.
Where's Final Fantasy? What changes?
If Sony announced that they bought Square Enix tomorrow, what would change for Xbox gamers? Nothing. Because Tomb Raider and Eidos and Deus Ex and Crystal Dynamics have already been sold off to Embracer. All that's left is the Japanese side of things, and we hardly get anything from them. We're still waiting for Final Fantasy VII Remake after 2 years. Probably never coming. We already know Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is PlayStation 5 only, probably forever. Forspoken, which comes out next year, January, 2-year exclusive. Final Fantasy 16, which comes out summer of next year, looks like it's 2-year exclusive. So, yeah, if they bought them, it's like whatever. It's because we don't get their games anyways, which is unfortunate. But that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got. RDX Son of Fett says, thanks Bonnie Ross for everything you did for Halo after Bungie left. Now hopefully Halo will get better with a new leader.
So you can hope for, really. The best you can hope for.
Yeah, indeed. There's also, Jez, a new Battlefield studio. Did you see this? I know me and you love Battlefield.
Yes, we do. I did see the email about this. Isn't it support studio / they're doing the narrative
Yeah,
version?
so it is a new studio led by Halo's co-creator
Marcus Leto.
Marcus Leto, and they're going to be doing a narrative, like a narrative campaign in the Battlefield universe. The new studio is called, what is this? Ridgeline Games. It's focused on developing a narrative campaign in the Battlefield universe. So
I think this is strange.
You think it's strange, huh?
I think it's strange because Battlefield campaigns have never been that great. I mean, like, Bad Company 1 was sort of okay, but I didn't think it was that great. It wasn't like Titanfall 2 levels of great. Like, Titanfall 2 is probably the best, like, FPS multiplayer-oriented game that has just so happens to have a campaign that exists, I think. But I don't know. Maybe they could do something cool with it. I'm trying to imagine what it would be like. You know, would it be like pure militaristic sort of deal? Would it be like episodic or something? Because single player sort of shooters and single player shooter games, especially ones that are associated more with multiplayer, they don't do that well. So this feels like a strange thing for EA to greenlight to me. So I'm hoping that maybe they just have a really good idea for it, a really good pitch for it. And maybe, it was like such a great idea that it couldn't be overlooked. So maybe that's wishful thinking, especially anything I associate with EA is wishful thinking, honestly. But...
Well, maybe it's just one of those things where they have to kind of win back fans because Battlefield 2042 situation and how people sort of perceived Battlefield 5 when it first came out, right? They put Vince in charge of the whole Battlefield brand. So it's like, okay, you've kind of alienated fans. You didn't have campaign in Battlefield 2042. So now you have this team working on a narrative campaign. You like the next Battlefield game's got to be good. Like you can't come out with a turd like Battlefield 2042 was. Because like at that point, it's like you're basically burning all the goodwill that the franchise ever had. And I trust Vince Zampella. Like you look at like his resume of what he's done with Medal of Honor back with EA back in the day, like starting kind of the whole modern warfare, no pun intended, craze. I'm not going to say FPS thing, but they did Medal of Honor. Then they went and formed Infinity Ward and then made the biggest video game franchise out there outside of Minecraft and Call of Duty, which we'll definitely have a lot to say later, and then left Infinity Ward and formed Respawn, while they were independent, but then like bought by EA, and they create Titanfall, which was amazing. Titanfall 2 didn't do very well, mainly because I think for whatever reason, they sandwiched it like in between Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. So Titanfall 2 didn't get the shine it deserved. But then they just came back with Apex Legends, and it's like, okay, this game is... They got in the Battle Royale train at the right time, and now, it's like one of the biggest games out there. So, and then Jedi Fallen Order did really well. So it's like, if there's somebody to turn around the Battlefield franchise, it's him. Like, so... Yeah. I got faith in Vince that he can do it. Clutchman says, remember, Microsoft is not even currently third in gaming revenue, but it will be after the deal goes through, so why would any of these regulators be concerned? Well, these regulators are concerned because Sony's concerned.
Yeah.
As we saw with the CMA, the CMA responses, that they were very concerned about Sony being impacted by this. Because it seems like Jim Ryan's on the phone to these regulators behind the scenes being like, this is bad for competition and consumers because it's bad for PlayStation. Right?
Yeah. I wonder if Nintendo said anything.
I mean...
Nintendo hopefully will come out in support of it because ultimately they will get Call of Duty as a result of this. Microsoft's literally come out and said that. So you would hope that they'll come out to bat for Microsoft at some point. But who knows? There was some other news regarding this week that the one of America's biggest unions actually came out in support of the deal. I don't know if that's officially or it's some kind of leak, but I think I want to say it was Axios who had this story. I could be wrong on that.
I thought one of the biggest unions had like wrote a letter to Congress or to the FTC to say scrutinize it. They flipped their position because then Microsoft made the comments about unions and how they wouldn't.
Yeah,
I think that is what you're talking about. I think that happened a while ago, but Meta defended the deal recently too. I don't know if you saw that on Twitter. Like they were.
Yeah,
like Meta. Like
that's crazy.
Zuckerberg's got Xbox's back. Is that a good thing, though? Is that a good thing? Do you want Facebook backing you? Because everybody seems to hate Facebook regulator-wise. They might be thinking to themselves, "Man, if Facebook says it's not a big deal, we need to doubly scrutinize it."
Maybe, but I think the reason Facebook's batting is because they I suppose they see it as an opportunity to get Call of Duty on VR as well. You know, it's probably like they're probably thinking this could help us, eventually get Game Pass on VR in some way. I don't know.
So, what else? You know what? Let's just talk about. Let's talk about since we're talking about the deal. Might as well dive into Jim Ryan and Phil Spencer, correct?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's dive into this. So if you guys are enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button. We really appreciate it. And I'm sure this is gonna get quite spicy. So I know what I'm gonna say because I made a video about it. So, and I don't know if everybody in watching the show has already seen my opinion on it because I've repeated it a couple times. I usually hate doing multiple podcasts a week because I always find myself repeating exactly what I'm saying. So I always gotta sit there and be like, oh, okay, I gotta figure out a different way to say what exactly I've said, not only in my video, but then on 2 other podcasts, not only on my own. So it's like, all right, so hopefully this is all fresh to you guys, right? So Lucas says, no, they're 2 different things, Rand. Jez is talking about the consequences of what you mentioned. Oh, okay. So yeah, so that makes sense. So, all right, let's start off. We'll go back and we'll start it off with what Phil said on September 2nd, which we should have been doing this podcast on Friday last week. It'd been crazy, but Jez decided to get some tan. Did you get any tan on the beach?
Oh, dude, I just don't tan.
You just don't tan.
I go red and then I go back to translucent. Not even white, translucent. It's all that Norwegian blood, man.
So
we don't get any sunlight up north. But yeah, I suppose someone who will be feeling the heat this week's probably Jim Ryan.
Well, you know what? Maybe it's even Phil Spencer. Because there's a part of me that thinks Phil probably wasn't supposed to say this. Right?
Yeah, I was surprised that he did that, to be honest.
So, because normally when they talk about stuff, it's always vague, right? You keep it vague. And on Twitter, if you remember 2 days after they announced the deal in January, Phil brought up that infamous tweet where it's like, we had good meetings with the PlayStation executives and we told them we're going to honor the contracts and we have desire to keep I'm paraphrasing, but they used the word desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. And every single podcast at that point in time and every single YouTube video was dissecting the word desire, right? Like, well, I desire to, be super skinny. Doesn't mean I am, or I desire to have a hot girlfriend. And that doesn't mean I'm going to get one. You can desire a lot of things and never get it. So people are like, you had people in the different camps. You had like the special Nicks of the world who are like, nah, mate. They're going to lock Call of Duty down. It's going to be exclusive, right? And then you had the Jez Cordons of the world that were like, nah, mate.
Please stop. Please stop.
Phil Spencer is a nice guy, and Call of Duty is a ritual, and Call of Duty will be forever on PlayStation, right? So you had like 2 camps forming because people were debating and discussing like wordsmiths what the meaning of desire meant in this in this thing. And one bad mother says, whatever Nick says, go opposite. Yeah. So he said all that stuff, and then they came out later talking about like, oh, we want to, keep Call of Duty. It's going to be there, same day, same content. But it's kind of more or less like there's a lot of wiggle room, right? There's really nothing to like sort of lock them in behind something. It's just kind of like, this is what we plan on doing, but it's with vague generalities, right?
Yeah.
But with The Verge, so Phil said in January we provided a signed agreement to Sony to guarantee Call of Duty on PlayStation with feature and content parity for at least several more years beyond the current Sony contract. An offer that goes well beyond the typical gaming industry standards. All right? So that hit on a Friday, which I think we might have briefly mentioned that on the podcast that day. Because we were like, oh, that makes sense, Several more years. I think me and you kind of were like, what does several mean? To me, when you say several, it means 3 or 4. Like, right?
Yeah.
Like a couple's 2, several's kind of like 3 or 4. We're like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. Because, you've been of the opinion the entire time it was going to be multi-platform, right?
Yeah, Phil's a nice guy.
Yeah. But then we got Jim Ryan's response. He went to Christopher Dring over at GameIndustry.biz on September 7th, so 5 days later, on a Wednesday. And he was not happy, Jez. He was not happy, chat. He's not in a good mood.
Was he not? Was he not?
Not in a good mood whatsoever.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No. Oh, man.
Poor Jim Ryan, not in a good mood. So he said this.
So bad.
He goes, quote, I hadn't intended to comment on what I understood to be a private business discussion. Okay? But I feel the need to set the record straight because Phil Spencer brought this into the public forum. And it's like, man, you know this is going to be good because he's using Phil Spencer's government name. He's out there being like, Phil Spencer did this. And I need to talk about it because it was supposed to be private. Like, okay. It's like, what is Jim going to say here? He says, Microsoft has only... Wait, hold on. John did this sort of on the Xbox era, but let me get into Jim Ryan and how, like, I sort of view him as how he said this. He's like, Microsoft only offered for Call of Duty to remain on PlayStation for 3 years after the current agreement between Activision and Sony ends. After almost 20 years, Call of Duty on PlayStation, their proposal
man.
was inadequate on many levels and failed to take account of the impact on our gamers. We want to guarantee PlayStation gamers continue to have the highest quality Call of Duty experience.
Oh, man.
And Microsoft's proposal undermines this principle. How's that? Was that good?
That was bloody hell. Just cancel the Oscars, man. I think Rand's going to win it.
Yeah.
Best actor.
Best actor, indeed.
Oh dear.
So that was that Jim Ryan's response. So I don't know what you're gonna say. I know what I'm gonna say. So I'm gonna give it to you because I have a spicy take. I have a very spicy one. What do you think about all this? Because you said you have something different that most people aren't really thinking about. So go ahead.
Well, it's sort of beyond a little bit what he talked about, where he's talking about the deal being inadequate and shit like that. Because I think Jim Ryan's arguing from a position of bad faith.
Okay.
And I think ultimately his bad faith position is why he won't be able to argue in court because he doesn't believe what he's saying. Because the truth is, he knows Microsoft's never going to take Call of Duty off PlayStation. He knows Call of Duty is permanently going to be on PlayStation because he knows how much money it's going to make Microsoft on PlayStation. He knows. He's got the spreadsheet. He's seen the billions of dollars, billions with a B. And he knows that even though Microsoft's going to be giving Sony a cut, it's still going to be more than profitable for them to continue doing that. I think he knows this. And I think the real reason they are worried about losing Call of Duty to a competing platform ultimately is clout.
Okay.
I think it's political and marketing clout. Because one thing they are losing is the marketing deal for Call of Duty, which is a bigger driver of console sales than you might think. But more than that, I think they are afraid of a world where Epic Games and Microsoft with Minecraft, Fortnite, and Call of Duty, the three games that make the most money for PlayStation, I think they are afraid of a world where those three games and those two companies are ideologically aligned against what PlayStation wants. Epic Games and Microsoft want a world where everyone can play together on all platforms all the time without having to pay a tax for it. Basically, reducing the walled garden, the gatekeeping. Phil Spencer talks about this all the time. I think he's even talked about it in relation to the Activision Blizzard deal at some point. And I think what they're worried about is ultimately Microsoft adding caveats to their deal with PlayStation, which is kind of like, yeah, we'll keep putting Call of Duty on PlayStation, but we're not going to pay your cross-play tax anymore. So if you want to get PlayStation, when you want to get this on PlayStation, you have to get rid of your cross-play tax. And we've seen with the Apple court case that companies are willing to leverage their user base and their power and their clout to sort of make ideological changes to platforms, you know. And it's not just the crossplay tax, it's also things like $70 games. And although like today Ubisoft announced that it is also going to start pursuing $70 games, if Microsoft sort of stands firm and is like, well, we're still going to price Call of Duty at $60, but it's also going to be in Game Pass, Microsoft increasingly starts to dictate how much companies can charge for their games in a way. Because it's kind of like, well, why is Sony charging this many dollars, or this many euros? Like, it's even more euros and it's even more in pounds. And I have a slightly different perspective on this because I am in Europe where we are charged more than Americans for the privilege of Sony's ecosystem, you know, which is one reason why I've been so harsh on PlayStation lately, is because they're using European markets to subsidize their American user base, which is where they're seeing the most competition from Xbox right now. You know, it's almost like a slap in the face to the fans that have been supporting the most in Europe and the UK and other countries around the world who are being price gouged while Sony takes the fight to Xbox in the US, where Xbox is probably doing the best, you know. And I think that business practice is cynical, you know. I think it's cynical, frankly. But anyway, will they lower the price when inflation comes back down? You know, the predictions are that inflation might have peaked now and it's going to start coming down over the next year. Are they going to bring back prices down? I don't think so. But anyway, I can't predict the future on that one. But yeah, I think Jim Ryan knows he's not going to lose Call of Duty because he knows how much money it makes. And to summarize, I think what he's really afraid of is losing the ability to screw consumers. And that's something he can't argue in court. He can't argue in court, well, we want to keep Call of Duty because we want to keep our multiplayer tax, and we want to stop people playing with their friends as much as possible. They can't argue that in court because that's literally what regulators are there to stop. The regulators are there to make things better for consumers. That's their job. And Sony is an active participant in making things worse for consumers. They're an active participant in making games more expensive, making consoles more expensive, making crossplay subject to taxes on their platform. Now, I don't begrudge Sony from doing this because it's their right as a business, you know, and ultimately consumers decide if they're okay with that. The consumers decide if they're okay with $70 games. They decide if they're okay with the crossplay tax. Developers decide if it's worth their while and stuff like that. But at the same time, you can't argue that it's a good thing in court, which is why they're going down this route of claiming some fear over losing Call of Duty, which they know is not going to stand up to any kind of scrutiny. It's not going to stand up to any kind of scrutiny in reality, right? So Sony's sort of trying to spin this narrative out there that Microsoft's being vague, they're not giving them enough assurances, they're not giving them enough promises, blah, 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 because they can't make the argument publicly that they want to keep screwing consumers, which they're allowed to do, while Activision remains ideologically aligned with PlayStation as a third party, because Bobby Kotick likes $70 games. Bobby Kotick doesn't mind playing the crossplay tax, so on and so forth. That's my take on it. And I think it's a bad faith take. And I think it's one that ultimately failed, because bad faith takes ultimately fail generally, especially when held up to legal scrutiny. That's my take, Rand.
I like that take.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah. You're going to have to fill me in on your take, because I haven't had a chance to watch your video.
All right, I will. I'm going to get to these super chats first, though, so I don't lose them. Straw Hat says, since Rand seems to love stories like Wheel of Time makes, suggest reading One Piece. Fantastic world building, awesome characters, tragic backstories, and loads of series-long mysteries. I actually have that in my my like Amazon browsing history, because it is something that people have mentioned to me, so it is a book that's essentially on, or a series that's on my to-read list, along with like Vinland Saga and like Berserk as like mangas. So yeah, it's definitely on my list. Daniel says, hello, Rand and Jez. Rand, have you read Odd Thomas by Dean Koontz? If not, I highly recommend it. 7 books in the series. I have not read anything by Dean Koontz. I will definitely check out Odd Thomas. I'll take a look to see what it's about and add it to my list. J Train says COD will still sell well on PlayStation, and Sony knows it. PlayStation fans are happily buying up a third copy of The Last of Us 1 for $70. Yeah, they're happy with the 70. That's for sure. All right. So, this is sort of what I said in my video, right? But like the idea here that Jim is this upset at somebody else having exclusives when PlayStation's entire business model has been founded on the idea of having exclusive content is like a joke. You know what I mean? Like, you go back and you think about how Sony even got into the industry in the first place. They bought like one of Europe's biggest publishers, Psygnosis, right? And as far as I remember, Final Fantasy was a Nintendo game, and then it was removed from Nintendo and became a PlayStation game. Like, the reason PlayStation became big is because it had all the third-party exclusives, the Metal Gears, the Devil May Cries, the Grand Theft Autos. Like, they built their business on having exclusive content before, they went and built their own games. So the idea here that Jim Ryan's upset over someone else having exclusives, first and foremost, is just hilarious. Because I think this whole statement is bullshit. And I truly mean that, because first off, Microsoft has he uses the word, they've only offered us 3 years. Like, what do you, like, what, were you expecting a 10-year contract? Like, the fact that he had the audacity to use only, it should be longer, or like, we're PlayStation, how dare you offer us only 3 years? This is, you know what I mean? Like, I get the sense that, like, whatever Xbox was going to do, it wouldn't sit well with PlayStation. And honestly, if the shoe was on the other foot, if PlayStation had bought Activision, there'd be no discussions about what they were going to do with Call of Duty. Just like if they had bought Bethesda, everybody and their mother would know Call of Duty is going to remain exclusive. That's what's going to happen. So you wouldn't, and I don't really see like Phil or any Xbox like pushing back on that like PlayStation has, because clearly Jim Ryan and his lobbyists have the ears of all the governments, because when you look at everything that's been said by Facebook, Ubisoft, all the big publishers, we know their responses. All of them are basically saying this isn't a big deal. There's plenty of companies out there with plenty of games that compete with Call of Duty. It's whatever. Who cares? It's not a big deal. The only one out there that's like, this is something huge, is PlayStation. Even Nintendo, who arguably you say maybe is gonna be or is the market leader, they don't even have Call of Duty, and they sell just fine. Not only their games sell just fine, their console sells just fine, right? So, like, I get the sense of arrogance when I read Microsoft has only offered it. Now, if he's saying only because, and I've seen people like Jeff Keighley say this publicly, like, well, maybe they feel that Microsoft's saying one thing to regulators and then another thing privately to Sony, right? Like, because I've seen that, because I've seen a lot of the PlayStation fans say, essentially, Phil's lying. Like, Phil's straight up lying. And I'm like, when did Phil ever promise that Call of Duty was going to be on PlayStation forever? He didn't. And nobody's going to make that offer because no lawyer would be like, you're not going to offer Call of Duty to PlayStation in perpetuity. So, like, you offer it in 5-year chunks or 3-year chunks and then maybe, like, redo the contract. And like you said, I think there is a little truth to what you're saying, that they're afraid they could team up with an idealist like Tim Sweeney, and with Fortnite and Call of Duty under their control, they could force Sony to get rid of crossplay tax, just like Epic forced Sony to do crossplay in the first place, which they didn't want to do. But Epic basically kind of forced their hand in that situation. Yeah. And PlayStation probably doesn't want Xbox to use Call of Duty as a hammer to get what they want, right? But then, so you have that, and then, the first lie, after almost 20 years, well, I mean, he says almost, but Call of Duty hasn't been on PlayStation for 20 years. Call of Duty's been on PlayStation for 17. The first Call of Duty game that hit PlayStation was Call of Duty Big Red One on the PS2 back in 2005. So it hasn't been 20 years yet. It's only been 17. So, I mean, I guess you can slide because you use the word almost. And then he says it was inadequate on many levels and failed to take into account the impact on our gamers. Why should Microsoft worry about the impact on your gamers? Like, give me a good reason. It's not Microsoft's. They should only be worried about the impact on their customers. Microsoft shouldn't be worried about the impact on your customers. And does Jim Ryan ever take the impact of Xbox gamers into his decisions when they make their business deals? Like, was Jim Ryan thinking about, you know what, I'm going to make Final Fantasy VII a permanent exclusive? Was he thinking about the impact that would have on Xbox gamers when he did that? No, of course not. Of course not. So, like, the idea here is, like, the idea that Jim is upset because his PlayStation fans are upset because Microsoft hasn't thought about the impact of losing a franchise that has been there for almost 20 years is ridiculous, because PlayStation's not worried or thinking about the impact of Xbox gamers when they make all of their business decisions, right? And not only that, I don't even think Jim Ryan really gives a flying F about how any of his decisions impact his gamers. He's the one out here raising prices $10. Did he think about the impact on PlayStation gamers when he decided to raise first party prices $10? Or did he think about the impact on the PlayStation gamers when he decided to raise console price $50 after they ripped out the internals and redesigned it so it would weigh less, so it would cost less to make and ship, so they could make a higher profit margin only to raise prices? So not only does PlayStation and Jim Ryan never think about the impact their decisions have on Xbox gamers, I don't even really think they think about the impact it has on their own gamers. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think PlayStation views their own customers as just piggy banks. They're just trying to squeeze as much money they can out of that rock. And they're going to keep on doing it. Right? So, and then the whole thing about, hey, we want to guarantee that PlayStation gamers have the highest quality Call of Duty experience. I'm sorry. Did I miss last generation when you paid Activision to keep content off of Call of Duty for a year? Or to keep content off of Call of Destiny for a year? Or recently, did I miss it where you paid Warner Brothers millions of dollars to have an exclusive, like, mission? Like, the idea here that, like, he's worried about, like, we need to have the, you know, the highest quality Call of Duty experience when they don't give a flying shit about Xbox gamers, Switch gamers, or PC gamers having a lesser experience is telling. Like I said, this whole argument is a bunch of bullshit. And people can say, someone, you can say not comparable. It is comparable. And look, I'll say right here, like, I get it. He's protecting his business. Why should he be cared about Xbox gamers? He's only protecting his bottom line. That's the whole point. It's all about protecting. He's worried about the impact, not on his gamers or Xbox gamers, but the impact on their bottom line. Because Jim Ryan is a cold-hearted businessman. He's not a gamer. He doesn't care about games. He cares about profit and loss margins, revenue. That's what he's worried about. He's worried about a future where Call of Duty potentially is off of PlayStation or significantly lessened on PlayStation, and they lose all that revenue. And they're worried about the idea of Xbox gaining market share at the expense of PlayStation. They're worried about the idea of Call of Duty being on Game Pass, growing Game Pass to the point where it just becomes this incredible monster that they can't compete with. That's what Jim Ryan's worried about. He's worried about the bottom line. He's worried about his profits. He's not worried about the impact of them losing Call of Duty, because Call of Duty will literally be everywhere else, regardless. And like Jez said, it's not like Call of Duty is going anywhere. Like, because Jez thinks it's always going to be on PlayStation. So it's like, what is he really worried about? So I can't take somebody seriously when they say all these things about Microsoft should worry about the impact on our gamers, and we want the full complete experience, when you, in your business decisions and your marketing deals and all this stuff, couldn't care about anything on the Xbox side. So I don't know. I love this because it's hilarious. It's hilarious. You don't see this sort of like slapping and fight, like in this sort of public space. Maybe they do it behind the scenes. And I think Phil wasn't supposed to mention they had this deal. I don't think at all. I think Phil wasn't supposed to say they had a 3-year deal or whatever. They had a deal at all, because then it forced maybe it was good, because Jim Ryan comes out here and like, I see a lot of people just being like, yo, like, what are you talking about, Jim? For maybe the first time. Right? And now you get a sense of what like Jim's talking about here and how he feels. You look back at some of the responses at the CMA and at the Brazilian thing. You think about, they only offered us a 3-year deal, right, Jez? They only offered us 3 years. Well, the deals end in 2024. That means 3 years takes it to 2027. 2028 would be 8 years from the launch of the Xbox Series X. That could be a new starting point of a new generation with new consoles. And then suddenly maybe it makes a lot of sense, because unless the government's going to force Xbox to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation for longer than 3 years, maybe there's a line of thinking at Xbox that's like, maybe we'll keep it on PlayStation for this generation, and then at the start of a new generation, if we had Call of Duty exclusive at the start where people switch, that could be incredible. But then you think about what Sony's responses were to the Brazilian court and to the CMA. And they both talked about the idea of Sony being negatively impacted at the start of a generation because people buy consoles for Call of Duty. So I think there's a little bit there too, Jez, because you saw the answers with the government on how Sony feels like that, and Sony's the one feeding that info. And then you get this thing here where Jim's like, it's 3 years, and that takes us to the end of the gen. So things start to line up. Maybe he is worried about the PS6 and not having Call of Duty at all. Or what it would be like for an Xbox console to have all these games and Call of Duty exclusive. I don't know. A lot of things sort of kind of clicked in place when you read a lot of the responses, and then this. And the crossplay tax, like they charge people for crossplay. But I understand Jim's a businessman. He's got to make the right choice for his business. But like the idea that he's concerned about the PlayStation gamers and is upset because Microsoft didn't consider the impact on their gamers is laughable. Like, his whole statement is laughable because it doesn't apply to the other side. If it was one thing, if Sony wasn't doing these deals or any of this stuff, I'd be like, okay, well, Sony's not doing this, Sony's not doing that. He might have a point, but like, they don't. So why should Microsoft worry about PlayStation gamers? Those PlayStation gamers can become Xbox customers and Game Pass users.
For less. Oh, well.
So.
It's, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all just business. It's all Jim Ryan got a duty to his shareholders to protect his company's interests and to protect his shareholders' interests, because at the end of the day, they're the people who own the company, But I'm kind of like you, that I think like it's almost incredulous use of our gamers, and it's just all lies, It's just lies because he knows they're not going to lose Call of Duty. It's all about the clout. It's all about not being able to create marketing. It's all about not being able to take exclusive content away from Xbox fans, which PlayStation can do a lot more affordably than Xbox because they are the biggest platform. So they are the ones that can make these kind of deals for exclusive content without it really being cost ineffective. So I think he's just completely coming from a position of bad faith, and I don't know. Every aspect of this deal seems to ring better for devs, consumers, and everyone involved. And it's like you said, final thoughts from me. The only person this is not good for is PlayStation shareholders. I think this is even good for PlayStation gamers because I think Activision will operate better as part of Microsoft. I think they'll get more content as part of Microsoft. I even think the games might end up going back to $60 as part of Microsoft. There's a chance of that happening. So maybe the games will even be better for PlayStation users under Microsoft. But it's just one of them things, and I don't think it'll really create any kind of blip. It's just some kind of industry drama, and I'm bored of it.
No. I want more. I want Phil to come out with a response. And I want Jim Ryan to come out with the counter response. I want fighting in the streets between the two heads of these companies going at each other over Call of Duty, which is funny because Phil even said in the Bloomberg interview that the reason they even were looking at Activision was for King and Blizzard. They didn't even mention Call of Duty, but that's what PlayStation's fighting over. Like Call of Duty. Like it's like, come on, Jimbo. Come on.
Tap dancing.
Jim crying, dance moves, line Ryan. Strikes again. We got a super chat here from Bruno who says, so Jez, after this cry from Sony, do you still think the deal will be finalized this year? Yeah, you did say in the recent podcast you thought it would be finished by the end of this year. Are you?
I meant this fiscal year.
Oh, no. Oh, okay.
I was just misinterpreted, guys. I meant this fiscal year, clearly. God, what are you talking about? This year? That's ridiculous. Obviously, Rand, I meant fiscal year.
Yeah. I've been eyeing like March for it to close. I just hope it closes before Diablo 4 comes out. When do you think Diablo 4 is going to come out anyways?
Spring.
Well, spring, so that's like, what is that? That's like March, April, May?
March, April, May, I guess. Yeah.
Hopefully they can get it done before Diablo 4 comes out. It would be pretty big. Miguel, he's been a member for 5 months. Thank you. He says, question, if Call of Duty is so important to PlayStation, if the 2027 timeframe is inadequate, why didn't Sony secure a generational deal for Call of Duty marketing? Well, I think they only do those marketing deals in blocks. Because then it's not necessarily...
Maybe per game.
No, they don't do it for per game. They do it for like
right.
a set of years because, after that's over, you can have a bidding war again if you want, right? So it's that's over. So it's like, oh, now we got Microsoft and Sony bidding over it. See who's going to pay us more. So And Sony's been the one who's had the deal since 2015, I think. I forget, was it Advanced Warfare that had the first PlayStation deal, or maybe it was Infinite Warfare? So it was one of that. Either 2015 or 2014 is when they had it. Assassin has been a member for 15 months, says, here's an idea. Either Xbox, PlayStation should stop with the shady third-party deals, or they should buy the studio IP and make it exclusive. Simple. Well, that's never going to really happen because with these games costing more and taking longer to make, both PlayStation and Microsoft use indies as sort of like as a way to get exclusive content without really having to pay too much, you know? Because like nowadays, like everybody's kind of wants to put their games everywhere because that's just the business model. And unless you're like Square Enix, I mean, Sony at the beginning of this gen went to Square Enix, and Square Enix was like, okay, we're doing this, pay us money, you can have it. Okay. They went to Bethesda because they knew Bethesda was in trouble. Because a lot of their games as a service titles failed and they weren't doing well, and people were like down on Bethesda. So it's like, hey, what do you got? And we're like, we got Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo, two brand new IP that are probably not going to sell well. And Sony's like, here you go, here's some money. You can basically pay for development, make a profit. And Bethesda's like, thank you. And then they wanted Starfield too, but that's when, Todd Howard put his foot down, essentially. Let's see, what else? RDX Unfet says, how much would Jim cry if Xbox bought Square? The problem with buying Square is that it would take forever for Xbox to get any content out of that. Because, they'd have to honor the deal, so Forspoken couldn't come for 2 years, and then Final Fantasy 16 couldn't come for 2 years. Who knows what the deals look like for Final Fantasy 7 Remake. So, you'd buy them, and then who knows when you'd actually be able to get a game from them. I mean, we're going on... They bought Bethesda in 2020, and it closed in 2021, and we're not actually going to get our first Bethesda game till 2023, and they actually had active titles in development that weren't, money had it for so long. Same thing with Activision. You get Activision next year, who knows what some of the deals look like for some of their other titles or what's in production. How long is it going to take maybe to pull some of those studios from Call of Duty to start making their own content if they're ever going to do that? Or how long the Blizzard games are going to take to make? It's a process. And I think just like with Square Enix, it's just sort of like you buy them, it's like you're not giving anything to Xbox gamers or any of your things that you would want for a long time. Sega makes more sense coming from Japan. Capcom makes more sense. Hell, even Bandai Namco would make more sense if you're looking at Japanese publishers rather than Square. Isilar says, I'm confused. So if Sony buys Square Enix, all will be well with Final Fantasy. It's the same effect with future Bethesda games locked away from PlayStation, and Elder Scrolls is way bigger than Final Fantasy 7. I had this thought, Jez. What if the deal gets blocked, right?
Huh?
What if the
Rand, don't jinx it.
What if the deal gets blocked? Microsoft has to pay Activision $3 billion, right? So Activision remains a company. Their stock price probably takes a hit. They don't have a Call of Duty game next year, so it probably takes a hit even more because the revenue is going to be crap. But then, what if it gets so low that Sony buys them? So then PlayStation buys Activision, and then it goes through super fast because nobody has a problem with it. Because what's good for PlayStation is good for consumers and good for competition because it's PlayStation.
Why are you putting that energy into the universe, man?
What if that happened? What would you say? What would you say if they blocked Microsoft from getting Activision but allowed Sony to?
I would cry.
You would cry?
I think I would actually cry. I'd literally cry tears and be really sad. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But if it does happen, we all know who to blame, right, guys?
Yeah, I guess
this man right here.
I guess that's my fault.
The man with a million jinxes.
Ooh.
Rand 419.
The one and only Everborn Saga says, did I just hear Rand say Sega makes the most sense? Well, now that I know you're listening, Sega doesn't make any sense. So just pass on Sega. Get rid of them. They're worthless because Everborn.
I don't want them to buy any more big publishers after Activision. I want them to just focus on smoothing out what they've got. I want them to focus on making sure everything is sort of in the correct place. They've got the right teams in place. They've got the right development pipelines in place. They've got finance teams in place, admin teams in place. I don't want them to expand like so rapidly that they get to a point where it's like, oh my God, how do we manage all this crap? I want them to be really careful about it. So if they are going to keep doing acquisitions, I'd rather see them get some support studios for Halo Infinite. I'd rather see them grow World's Edge with some RTS developers, to keep the Age of Empires franchise going without having to rely on Relic. That kind of stuff, I think like if they do start buying more mega publishers, it probably will end up being an antitrust matter. But
yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. I agree with you. Like maybe
I just want World of Warcraft, mate.
There's a chance they don't buy another publisher because they can't risk it. Because if this Activision one goes barely by, maybe they can't get another one. But I mean, like Certain Affinity makes a lot of sense to help with Halo. Asobo. There's some studios you're working with that you can grab. You don't necessarily need a publisher. But to what everyone's saying, like I was just kind of responding to the person that I asked about Square Enix. Like I don't think Square Enix makes a lick of sense for Xbox. I think Sega does more because they're not really bound by any money hats or timed exclusivity. Plus, Microsoft is trying to make a push on PC. That's why the Activision deal was really important to them because they got Blizzard. And we know Sega has a bunch of PC developers, right? And you get the Japanese content, you get Atlas, you get Yakuza. I mean, you can make the argument that Sega makes a lot of sense if they're going after another publisher. Like, you look at what, after Bethesda, you look at, okay, what do we need to shore up this content, for Game Pass and everything that we have? Got to hit all these different demographics. And it's just like, Activision kind of became that purchase of opportunity purchase because their stock price went so low, and it made a lot of sense because they wanted it on mobile, and they had King. They needed more PC content, and they had Blizzard. And it just so happened to have Call of Duty. So it was like, geez, even though the cost was $70 billion, it's like probably the best for them. Not saying for me or any of you here, but like for their business, Activision probably made the most sense out of anybody they could buy, right?
I mean, they already pre-installed Candy Crush on Windows.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the perfect company to buy, to align Microsoft in opposition to Tencent. Riot is a runaway success story, and they've ripped off Blizzard. Let's be honest about it, all right? They've ripped off Blizzard. Riot is a clone of Blizzard. They poached off their devs. They cloned all their games. They cloned their art style, kind of. And Blizzard's been in a bad state, but they're coming up back to where they were. Diablo 4 looks amazing. Even World of Warcraft Dragonflight looks amazing, And I just got a really good feeling that Microsoft will bring some of those other franchises back to the fore because Microsoft has a different goal than Activision does. Like Activision goes straight to where the money is, whereas Microsoft wants to grow the user base of Game Pass, and you can do that with niche games too. I think this is the best chance we get to see StarCraft again. I think this is the best chance we get to see Spyro again, frankly. I think this is the best chance we get to see Prototype and a lot of these other dormant franchises again. Because these niche kind of games, they can exist in a Game Pass world, but they can't exist in a Activision shareholder culture world, So I'm really excited, and I just pray that it goes through because I want to see these franchises again, man. I really want my StarCraft shooter. I've wanted that since they announced StarCraft Ghost, man. I want that more than anything. I want it.
Yeah.
Where is it?
Give
it to me. Give it to me. I need it.
I needs it.
Yeah.
We needs it, precious. We needs it, precious.
Oh, God. I've gone full Golem. Gone full Gollum.
You have gone full Gollum. The friendly neighborhood Blue Shell says in the super chat, what about money hatting some of those JRPG developers for an Xbox version, like for instance Falcom and the Trails and YS series?
Oh man, this is Rand's favorite topic, JRPG.
Yeah. I mean, if Miles was here, he'd be like, tell me all about Falcom and Trails and YS, right? Like,
I got some good news.
What?
Penny Blood Xbox Kickstarter goal was reached.
What's that?
Yay! Penny Blood is a Kickstarter JRPG that's a spiritual successor to the classic PlayStation 2 JRPG Shadow Hearts, which you may or may not have played.
I did play Shadow Hearts, and it was incredible.
You did?
I played 1 and 2. Yes.
Oh my god!
I mean, I had my JRPG phase when I was younger.
But Shadow Hearts was brilliant, right? It was like
Shadow Hearts,
Lovecraftian JRPG. It was amazing. And Penny Blood is coming to Xbox. Hopefully. Kickstarter. So it's one of the only Kickstarters I've ever backed. And Wild Arms too. That's coming to Xbox.
People are making fun of me for saying YS. Because I guess this says it's ease. That's what it's actually. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Ease.
I don't know. I see YS.
I didn't know that.
Okay, it's YS series, whatever.
I honestly didn't know. I've never heard it's pronounced. I've only seen it written.
Yeah.
I thought it was pronounced wise.
I've never played one of their games. I've never heard what the pronunciation is. You see YS next to it, I'm like, okay, YS, not ease or whatever.
Yeah, for people asking, it's what the successor to Wild Arms is also coming to Xbox. I actually never played that, but I heard it's really good. That's like it's a Western, a JRPG Western. Crazy shit, man. But yeah, we went off on a tangent again, Rand. We always do this. It's always your fault.
Yes,
it's always your fault.
Well,
every time.
So there's a couple other Xbox announcements. We had the announcement of a new Elite controller, the Xbox Elite Series 2 Core,
and that's the controller I heard about.
So, essentially, Jaz, what is this controller? Since you wrote an article about it. Or did you not write an article about it? I forget.
I did. I did. So basically, I think we talked about it on the podcast a few weeks ago that I'd heard that Microsoft was working on some kind of Elite controller Lite version, but I didn't know what Lite meant. And then a week later, we saw some leaked photographs of a white Elite controller. So I was thinking, okay, maybe the light Elite controller, maybe the light referred to the shade, the white color or something. I don't know. But now we actually know it's a cheaper Elite controller because a bunch of the parts are gone. We no longer have a carry case. There's no longer a charge dock. There's all the additional parts, paddles, and joysticks are now, all of that stuff is sold separately. You just get the controller, the paddles, one set of thumbsticks, the thumbstick adjustment screwdriver thing, and the USB-C cable. That's the white shell. That's all you get. But in addition to that, they announced that they are bringing the Xbox Controller Design Lab to the Elite Series 2 line, and they are bringing that by the end of the year, I think they said, or some kind of timeline in the near future, or maybe they just said vaguely in the near future. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I thought this is kind of cool. It makes the Elite controller more accessible. Not more accessibly. I'm not even drinking today. It makes the Elite controller more accessible from a price perspective, but also they very notably, very vaguely said in the email that I'm paraphrasing here because they use very careful language, but they basically hinted that the construction and the durability of the components have been improved because the Elite controllers are spectacularly notorious for falling apart.
Yeah, they are.
I went through 2 Elite Series 1 controllers. 2. The rubber grips fell off on both. And I'm going to tell you a little story now, Rand. Interestingly, I actually spoke to an engineer years ago who worked on the Elite Series 1. And they said the reason the grips were falling off was because a specific type of hand oil causes the glue they use to erode or something. And it's like it's specific to certain people's types of hand or something. So like that's why like the pads fell off for some people, but not others. So I guess I just have greasy hands, basically, is what the point there is. But the Elite Series 2 didn't have that rubber grips problem. They had another problem where the paddles, not the paddles, the shoulder buttons died after a little while, and also it sort of suffered from stick drift to a sort of a broader degree than the standard controllers. So that happened to my Elite Series 2 controller review unit. I had it for about a year, and then the bumper got stuck, and it wouldn't return from its activated state without being manipulated. Obviously not great. Couldn't throw grenades in Call of Duty anymore. Couldn't use powers in Overwatch anymore. Very, very annoying. And also, one of my sticks does seem to sort of get stuck in a drift position. I don't know. So, I have no idea if these improvements will actually pan out. There's no way to know without a time machine, right? So, I'm just going to have to get my hands on one and abuse it for the next 6 months, and then let you guys know in half a year or a year whether the bloody controller still works. But hopefully, they will have, presumably they've got a lot of those returned, and they've got a lot of broken units they can analyze and make improvements upon, and hopefully they will end up being a robust controller that people can actually use. And I think I'm gonna get a Elite controller from the design lab. I think.
Yeah, that was the bigger announcement for me, or to me, is that okay? Now you can do the design lab, which is something people have been asking for forever. Because the white controller, I just don't dig it. But a red one, a purple one, like whatever other design choices you have, that's cool. So I think it's smart to sell like an Elite to people who may not want all the bells and whistles.
I never used the bells and whistles, man. Well, I never used the carry case. I never used the extra sticks, personally speaking. So this is great for me.
Yeah, so it's like here's the controller that doesn't come with the extra sticks or the paddles. And if you just want that as a, like a better feeling controller, because they are better feeling than the standard ones, they just don't last long, then okay, you can buy one. It's $130. But we still have the Series 2 that's $180 that has the kit and caboodle, or if you want them separately, you can just buy, the accessories for $60. I think even if you have like stuff from the Series 2, it works on this one. So I think it's smart to have a lower priced Elite. I wonder though if this kind of recontextualizes when to, or if at all, we will get a Series 3. Right? Because if you're coming out with the Series 2 core now, that they didn't. There's no share button on this. It's still the profile switcher. Are you really going to come out with the Series 3 next year? Or even for me, as someone who's like might want to purchase it, am I now be like, well, I don't really like. Should I just wait for a Series 3? But then it's like, when is a Series 3 coming out? And
here's what I think. I don't think the Series 3 is coming next year now.
Okay.
There was a rumor. There was a rumor that Series 3 was being worked on, but I think either that rumor was fake or they got mixed up with this Elite Core rumor, because this Elite Series 2 Core does register on retail systems as a new Elite controller, which is how I got the information. So it's sort of like, I think if you're updating the design lab with these controllers and new features now, and you revised your design and construction process, why would you, want to put out an Elite Series 3 next year? For me, I think they will do an Elite Series 3, but I think it'll be further out. I think it'll be further towards the middle of the gen. Maybe even they'll save it for next gen. But that's where I'm at right now, personally. Could be wrong. Rand. Could be wrong.
Could be wrong. You always end your stuff like that. Yeah. Could be wrong.
Don't have a crystal ball. But that's my prediction.
Yeah. I mean, it just kind of was like, man, okay, so what would you do with the Series 3? Unless they're going to phase out the Series 2 and then you just have the core plus the accessories and then have a Series 3 come in next year. But, what do you offer? Like why? Like, it's like, okay, the share button, but like the share button doesn't work very well because the DVR doesn't work very well, like on the Xboxes. So it's like, and
I got a theory about the DVR.
Oh, okay. Give me your theory. What's the theory?
My theory about the DVR is that they are working on something major for it.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. It's because no one will talk about it. And over the years of covering Xbox, usually, I can get some information or background on some things, unless it's sort of like part of something that's coming soon. So, like, for example, when I sort of like, and this is just my gut instinct right now. So like when the Elite Series S started leaking, couldn't get anyone to talk about it. Couldn't get Microsoft to admit one way or the other if it was real. The fact that they didn't admit it was real or not real, they didn't come out and say, yeah, it's real, or they didn't come out and say it's not real, that made me think it was real, So when I ask for comments on the game DVR, and I asked PR for comments on the game DVR, when they updated the dashboard last week, I said, can you tell us if you guys are working on the game DVR? They declined to comment. That kind of makes me think they are working on the game DVR, and there's going to be some kind of major upgrade for it. And that's why they're not talking about it at all right now. I think if it was just kind of dead and they were just kind of happy with it, or they were just making smaller refinements, they might just tell me. They might just say, yeah, we're planning to, by the end of the year, have some kind of smaller refinements to it. But I've got this idea that they're kind of going to, what I believe is, Rand, they're going to integrate Clipchamp into the Xbox. That's what I think. Do you know what Clipchamp is?
Isn't that something they just bought recently?
Yeah, so Clipchamp is a web-based video editing platform that's actually really good, and it was really bad when they bought it. It was kind of like super expensive. It was like $1 million just to get 1080p. But now they've added a free tier, and the paid tier is actually way more affordable. So it's like a lot better than it was, and they've upgraded it a lot, and they've integrated into Windows now. Like you can edit videos straight out of the Photos app using Clipchamp, and it's pre-installed and all that kind of stuff. So I think they're maybe developing a lightweight version of Clipchamp for the Xbox, where it can like grab your clips from the cloud, and then you can edit clips and stuff like that. And crucially, you'll be able to pay a subscription to Clipchamp, or maybe it'll be included in Game Pass or something like that, where you can get like advanced features like 4K editing and longer clips and maybe that kind of thing. I have no idea how and when that's coming, but that's kind of what I believe right now. Because like you can try it yourself. If you're on Windows 11, go into the Photos app, and then click on Video Editor, and it literally just opens it in Clipchamp. Which is really interesting. So I think that's where they're going to go with the game DVR, and that's the reason they're not talking about it.
All right,
that's just a theory.
That'd be good if they fix it. So yeah, the Elite controllers, you can always count on Microsoft for selling you new controllers. That's one thing. That's one thing they're really good at. Now coming to the Design Lab at the end of the year. The other thing they announced last week was a new dashboard, and that has a lot of people with varying different opinions on this. So much so that I've seen a whole bunch of people make mock dashboards now because they don't like the new one. Like Cloberl has the new mock dashboard that I think looks really good. I think Ben Kenobi made one. A few other Souls Ninja I saw made one. All of them look really well. And it's just funny because all of them have a focus on the background art. Like, as a sort of like, hey, we want to see what's the background. So apparently this is like an August 2023 build. It's only an alpha skip ahead and only to a subset. So it's not like it's coming anytime soon to the entire Xbox population sometime next year. But a lot of the criticisms are around the fact that it looks like it just puts way more stuff on your screen. Like, not like the first screen, because they added the settings to the dash, which I think make a lot of sense. They took the big left box where that's the last thing you played and shrunk it. So it's like it really doesn't look too much different when you're on that page, but if you scroll down, then it just becomes a gigantic ad for Game Pass because it's like most popular Game Pass games, recently added Game Pass games, like a whole bunch of just Game Pass stuff, which people I don't think people need. Like for a power user like me or you or most people in the chat here, they're probably like, I don't need that. But for someone who's like new, maybe that works. You're new and they want to sell you Game Pass and you don't really know, like now you can see the stuff. So like I look at that stuff, I watch my buddy Maka's video and I'm like, yeah, I don't really like the way this looks. Plus, they got rid of the ability to pin stuff to the homepage, Jez. You can no longer pin your groups to the homepage. Like it's completely removed. So like anybody who has like a backlog pinned or any of the other stuff, like, yeah, that exists in your My Games and Apps or whatever, but it doesn't exist on the dashboard, which is something you have to change. Because if they, you don't really have a lot of customization options on the dashboard. The one things you do have is like, okay, I can customize my background image and I can pin things. If they like remove like the ability to pin stuff, and it's just like, no, we want you to see Game Pass stuff, I think that's a big, big mistake. But like I said, it's not coming out for a while. So there's no room to essentially panic or get upset just yet. Offer feedback in the appropriate places. And, I'm sure we'll see a change over time. What were your initial thoughts about the dashboard?
My initial thoughts were, it's gone backwards a bit. It actually looks like one of the older versions of the dashboard. I noticed the ones that really came up high to the top. I can't remember which iteration of the dashboard it was, but it's like it was the one that was similar to this, where it was just tiles all the way across, all the same sort of size on like 2 rows. I'm not a fan of it personally, but I'm also someone who doesn't care that much about the dashboard. I know like a lot of people want to see the dashboard to be more sexy, more stylish, but I have to say, I don't play the dashboard. I just want my dashboard to be fast and functional and get me into my game. I don't care how it looks, as long as it looks fine. And to me, this just looks fine. The whole point of the dashboard, from Microsoft's perspective, is to monetize the platform. You guys might not like to hear that, but the reason they sell the consoles at the price they do is because the margins are wafer thin. They sell them at cost or very close to at cost for very little profit. And the whole business model really is the software. The game sales, the microtransactions, the ads on the dashboard, frankly. It's a similar business model to printer. They sell the printers cheap. They make the money on the ink. And now you can have ink subscription services. You can have Game Pass for printer ink if you want. And ink cartridges have DRM too nowadays, because that's the business model. So from Microsoft's perspective, they're kind of thinking like, we need to make this as monetizable as possible without degrading the user experience, which is ultimately push Game Pass as much as possible. That being said, I do think we are coming to a point where Game Pass is starting to devour everything, And I was actually thinking of writing an editorial about this, cautioning Microsoft against this, because nowadays it seems like everything has to stop in order for Game Pass to proliferate. We don't get upgrades to the achievement system because the devs are working on Game Pass. We don't get upgrades to the game DVR because the devs are working on Game Pass stuff. The dashboard doesn't get new features unless they're related to Game Pass, So I'm kind of like in two minds about it. Analytically and speaking from the business perspective, I guess I get why they're doing it. But on the other side of the fence, it is getting to the point where the user experience is being degraded. and it is getting to the point where we're seeing less fun features hit the dashboard and more marketing hit the dashboard. And I get that the business is evolving. The whole business of video games is evolving. Mobile gaming is eating everyone's lunch. And if you look at the Xbox dashboard, the new one, it looks very similar to the Game Pass app they've just put on Samsung TVs, right? Which looks very similar to the iOS store, the Android store, Netflix, and stuff like that. It's kind of like aimed at a new generation of people that have grown up with phones and grown up with these kind of interfaces that are more simple and easy to use. Like, a lot of people, when I show them Steam, it just looks like a crazy mess, if they've not used Steam before. Like, it's we live in different times, and I think that's where some of it comes from. But I do if Microsoft's listening to the show, I probably am going to put out an editorial soon that touches on this. I think there is a way that they can appeal to both audiences and bring the sort of older generation of gamers along for the ride in a way that doesn't alienate us, because some of us do want a cooler looking background. Some of us do want the dynamic themes. We do want the customization, even avatars. What the hell happened to avatars? They're basically just gone now. There's no games that use avatars anymore. There's no like platform level features that are interesting. That and they have added some extra features here and there. Like some of the networking tools they've added have been really good. But they're not. It's not very sexy, is it, Rand?
Yeah,
not very sexy. Like I don't want to discredit the amazing work that Microsoft's Xbox's networking team does to include like the latest features for networking Wi-Fi. It's not very sexy in a press release or an article, to talk about packet tagging or whatever it's called that they added, which is supposedly like really good. Like I know some people who turn on that packet tagging feature. And it's actually really boosted their latency in a lot of games. So, but yeah, it does feel like Game Pass is vacuuming up a lot of the dev hours that could be going into other features. But it is what it is. It's a world we live in.
Yeah, I don't know. That was the kind of thing that stood out to me. Is like, man, they're like they really want you to subscribe to Game Pass on that dashboard. So I'm sure they'll take feedback and then we'll get some changes. But yeah, I think. Oh, I got some super chats here I needed to read. So we got Drawn TJ. Thank you. He says, with Activision, can they bring back Vigilante V8? Hey, do you think World of Warcraft comes to current gen consoles? I know, Jez, you're always asked about this, World of Warcraft on consoles, and I think your answer is usually no, right?
I don't think it'll happen. Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. There's something about Warcraft's engine which makes it difficult. It's a very CPU heavy engine, and also the game is designed around a mouse and keyboard heavily. There are mods which let people play it with a controller. Like there are controller mods for World of Warcraft that people do use, and they're supposedly pretty good for some classes. I can't imagine being a healer with a mouse and controller with a controller, but playing a Retribution Paladin, for example, you probably do that with 2 buttons. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I think it's possible. I think what's more likely to happen is Game Pass PC games come to Game Pass Cloud, and maybe Warcraft can be part of Game Pass Cloud, PC Cloud for Xbox or something. But then again, it's like, how do you get the UI mods? Because there's a lot of the game revolves around UI mods. Although in Dragonflight there's less necessity for UI mods. I don't know, man. It could happen. Like, I never thought Microsoft would buy Activision Blizzard, but here we are discussing that. Like anything could happen.
Yeah, and I don't know about Vigilante V8. I'm gonna say no. Greg Ross. He says, did you notice the Elite Series 2 thumbsticks became overly sensitive twitchy after the dynamic latency update? I had to revert to the update to fix it. I did not, because I haven't used my Elite 2 because it broke. I lost my shoulder buttons on it, as well as kind of the thing that protects the tear triggers. Like, it's like just a jagged point now. So I stopped using it, and I use my blue controller right now. So I haven't noticed that. But yeah, those Elite controllers, they got to fix that. They better be truthful when they say we've made it better or whatever, because they can't go out here and sell a third Elite and then have those die after 6 months. Although they did say that they've upped the warranty to a year. So if yours does die or something goes wrong, you can get it replaced. So there is that. Jez, Stalker 2 reportedly is offering refunds because of release date postponed. Did you hear anything about this?
Yeah, the game's been indefinitely delayed, which sucks, but it's also not surprising given the evil that is Putin's Russia. But I was saying on Twitter, like, it'd be cool if I could just pre-order it anyway, just to send money to the dev. But there are a list of ways you can support GSC Game World on their website, and I guess it just is what it is, It's just a terrible situation. I've heard Microsoft's been supporting them a lot, financially, and Microsoft is also providing military assistance to Ukraine from a cyber defense aspect, So, but yeah. All round, speaking of military stuff, did you see this week that the US government approved the crazy HoloLens tactical helmets for the US Army?
I did not see that. So that HoloLens actually going to have a use?
Yeah. So like the US military is taking its first order on the augmented reality tactical helmets from Microsoft for $2 billion.
Jeez, that's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. I never thought we'd see HoloLens do anything, so it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think that's about it. So, if you guys have any questions, make sure you put them in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer them. Thank you guys so much for being here on Monday. We will be back with another podcast this week, right, Jez? Whether it's Friday or Saturday, we're doing another one. So hopefully we'll have more to talk about. We should. Tokyo Game Show, Deathloop, hopefully announcement, Twitch ID at Xbox, and whatever else happens. Maybe we'll get more info about Halo and what they're doing with some of the changes there potentially. So we'll be doing another podcast later this week. Subscribe if you're new here. And hit that like button before you leave. So I might be making a video tomorrow. I'm gonna try to make a couple videos a week. So I'm gonna do my best to get back on the grind. I've been putting out some videos recently, and I appreciate everybody for sticking around and watching the videos after such a long time of really kind of not doing it. But feel the need to content create again. So let's get some questions answered here. Jazz, we got one from George. Who said Forza had a live stream today. Forza Motorsport is in the production phase, and they'll enter polish phase early 2023. Predict the Forza Motorsport release date and other first-party dates. Well, I mean,
I'll let you do that. You're the Nostradamus.
I don't know. Like, I'm just gonna assuming there's no delays. I just kind of like Redfall February. I was gonna say like Forza Motorsport March, but if they're going in polish phase in early 2023, maybe May for Forza Motorsport. Minecraft Legends, maybe March. April for Diablo. May for Starfield. And then in March, you would also have Ghostwire Tokyo. Our History Untold, June. I mean, we're assuming all those games actually come in the first 6 months. Because we never know. I mean, things might get delayed. Too early to tell. There's a lot of games coming early next year. John G's been a member for 19 months. Says, great show. Fun way to end my vacation. Oh, man. Ending a vacation's awful. I haven't been on vacation in a long time. I think my last vacation I ever went on, Jez, was to Disney World when I was in 8th grade. What a fun time.
For real?
Yeah. Well, I don't really, don't really go any. Well, I mean, I guess E3 in 2016, I guess you consider that a vacation, right?
Wow, that's a long time ago.
But I mean, like, I do staycations. You know what I'm saying? Play video games, read books, watch movies. We got one from John. It's unfortunate about Bonnie Ross, but would you like to see Bonnie Ross return to Microsoft in the future? Maybe not as head of 343, but for Bonnie Ross to create a new studio. I mean, sure, why not? I mean, there's also the possibility she just returns to the gaming industry after the family emergency and forms her own new studio to do whatever. Cool. I mean, she's not that old, I don't think. So there's always that. I don't necessarily think like, it means like, oh, well, like she's not going to be in the gaming industry. So we'll see how that plays out. I wouldn't mind like maybe heading up a studio that it's like, hey, work on a Halo spinoff or something. I don't know. I want me some Halo spinoffs. Ryan says, what horror studio would you want Microsoft to acquire? I think Bloober Team or Frictional Games, the team that did Soma and the Amnesia games, would be great fits. Bloober Team, I'm not a big fan of at all, really. I don't think that's a good thing. Frictional Games does make pretty good content. What about I had a team on my tip of my tongue, but I just totally forgot it because my phone started ringing. Jez, you answer this real quickly.
What was the question?
Horror team.
For who?
For Xbox to acquire.
Oh, well, they've already got Tango Gameworks, but they don't want to work on horror games anymore, which is really depressing for me.
That is depressing,
because I want The Evil Within 3 so badly. But I get why they're not doing it. But The Evil Within 1, I think, is one of gaming's most criminally underrated games. I absolutely adore that game. The art is just staggering. Some of the bosses. The problem with The Evil Within, it's like backloaded. Like it gets really good towards the end of the game, and it's like so much crazy shit happens towards the end of the game. Like the first half of the game is like a plot and a mission, and then there's this part in the middle of the game where it's just ridiculously frustrating. And I think a lot of people drop off at that part in the game, but then they miss the last top part of the game, which is amazing. I don't know, but horror team, I don't know if Microsoft likes horror that much. Personally, when has Microsoft ever made a horror game? I suppose they've got Undead Labs, which is kind of a horror game. Georgie says State of Play was just announced, by the way. Does that vindicate someone? Does that vindicate someone who said it was coming? I don't know.
Wait, what?
State of Play just got announced for tomorrow during the show.
Sony State of Play?
Yeah. Who said that was happening? Was it Grubb?
No, I thought that was a Nintendo Direct.
Oh, okay. Well, it's happening.
Oh, it's a State of Play, so it's not a showcase.
What's the difference?
Showcase is like the big one. State of Play is usually the smaller one. And it says, we'll have some great updates from our amazing Japanese partners and developers around the world. Expect about 20 minutes covering 10 games.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
I kind of like that though. 20 minutes, lots of content. Sounds good to me.
2 minutes a thing, yeah. But yeah, people were expecting a showcase and not a State of Play. So.
Right, okay. Well, that's interesting. Anakin says, question, when is Ubisoft Plus coming to Xbox? Ubisoft said it was coming back in January. I have no idea. These kind of deals take time to work out. We've seen a lot of games hit Game Pass recently. What's it called now? Oh, what's that game Ubisoft made that hit Game Pass recently? Phoenix Rising. Phoenix Rising? Is that what it's called? Rand?
Yes. Immortals Phoenix Rising.
Yeah. So maybe it's already happening. Maybe it's just not like a full-blown deal or something. I guess we'll have to wait and see, But I did say on last week's show that I do think the fact that the full library for Game Pass on the new dashboard, it has like this channel feature where you can filter games by publisher. I think that was done specifically because they're going to get more publishers into the system soon. And obviously Ubisoft would be a good candidate for that. I'd love to see. You know who I'd love to see as a channel in Game Pass? Devolver. I would love to see Devolver Digital as a channel in Game Pass because Devolver makes so many like great small bite-sized kind of games, the kind of games that really fit into my lifestyle right now. Um, but yeah, I digress. Let's get another couple of questions here before I go
Yeah.
and eat some food.
Whittier says, Jez, games like Minecraft, Flight Sim, and Sea of Thieves have their own mod stores, and you can bet that Halo Infinite and Starfield are planning mod stores to help finance their games. How valuable are mod stores to Xbox?
Oh, massively valuable. Minecraft's mod store is like a huge driver of revenue. And you have to think like all those companies that make maps for Minecraft and user generated content, all Microsoft takes a cut of all of that. So like Minecraft basically has its own app store. It's kind of like the Roblox model, right? Yeah, Crazy Greek dude says Gears of War is horror. Because I said earlier, they don't really publish horror games. I was thinking like hardcore horror, like Silent Hill, you know. And Gears of War is not very scary. But anyway, going back to the other question. User-generated content is a huge part of Microsoft's strategy for Xbox. That's one of the reasons Halo Infinite is developed on its own engine rather than the Unreal Engine. It's so they could make Forge, you know. They can't really build a very super in-depth map building tools using Unreal Engine necessarily, because it basically already is a sort of map building system. There are games that are on the Unreal Engine that do have like construction elements. I think is Besieged on the Unreal Engine or is it on Unity? I think it might be on Unity. But I'm not saying Unreal's bad for that, but it's like if Microsoft owns the entire pipeline, and obviously they can monetize it more effectively than having to pay Epic Games fees. Because you have to remember, if they're using the Unreal Engine for Halo and they build a store on top of that, presumably, like that could affect the tiers that they have to pay for the Unreal Engine. Because Unreal Engine, the more you make, the more you have to pay in reparations, I think, unless you've got some kind of bespoke deal. I don't know for sure, like off the top of my head. But like if they've got their own engine for Forge and they've got their own engine for Minecraft and Flight Simulator and all these other games, it's kind of like they own the entire pipeline, which means they own the entire app store and they own the entire user-generated content store, which means it's better for monetization, it's better business model, blah, 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 roundabout way. So yeah, this is what Microsoft considers the metaverse to be, user-generated content. So yeah, it's hugely important for them.
Yeah.
Assassin just dropped a super chat.
Yeah, we had a couple messages about predictions for TGS. He says, I'm curious what exactly Xbox is in store for TGS. Who do you guys, Xbox has maybe partnered with, and who do you want them to partner with? Because I want to know if Microsoft was working with Platinum again. I don't know. And I don't know if announcing that as TGS is the thing to do. I would imagine they would announce it as like E3. I mean, they announced the Kojima thing at E3. They announced that Team Ninja was coming back to the platform with Wulong Dynasty. They announced Persona at E3. So I don't know if we're gonna see like huge partnership announcements. I think we're just gonna see maybe some Game Pass editions because the Game Pass team kind of hinted at that. You know, so like Jez, I know Jez's rumor got slothed about Phil potentially being there, which he doesn't know, and even if he is there, it may not mean anything. You know, maybe he's there for business dealings or whatever.
Yeah.
It's too hard to say because TGS has kind of just been and it's not like Microsoft's main market. So I feel like anything significant wouldn't be there. And I say that, and maybe something will happen, and I'll look like an idiot. But I just would expect like Game Pass stuff personally, but we never know. I mean, we'll find out Thursday. So. We only got a couple days left to go. Space Dovican says I missed the super chat. I'm sorry, man. I must have just I didn't see it. So put in chat what it was and I'll answer it. Justin says, would it be possible for Microsoft and Activision to renew the licenses to past Marvel games they worked on through back compat? Would it be possible? Probably, unless those licenses are already handed to somebody else. Like Nintendo has the license right now for the Marvel Ultimate Alliance because they did Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. So it's possible that Nintendo has that license because they haven't delisted that game, which would mean maybe they can't bring back Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2 because of it. I don't really expect Microsoft to renew any licenses to do back and pat stuff personally. And I think Jez would agree with me on that.
Sorry, what was that? I missed that.
About Microsoft delving back into like back and pat stuff with the Activision deal and renewing licenses for like the Marvel games. You know?
Oh right, yeah.
I don't think that.
It's complicated.
Yeah, I don't think that happens. Caloric says, think entertainment companies like Skydance is marketing an interest of Hollywood into gaming becoming publishers. Maybe. I guess we just got to see. Well, Skydance has been around for a bit, I think. Or maybe they haven't. Or maybe they're... Where do I know Skydance from? Is that like a film company? Either way, we'll have to see what her game is. So, I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer on that question. George wants to know, Jez, what is DJ Goodard James working on at Xbox Global Publishing? He was a combat designer for Killer Instinct.
I have no idea. I think like there's a lot of speculation about it. Could be Killer Instinct, but I honestly have no clue. I'd love to know. You know, someone at Xbox watching, slap me a DM on Twitter. Let me know.
Paul says PlayStation just announced their state of play for tomorrow and will be showing 10 games. Yes, 10 games, 20 minutes. Yeah, focused on Japanese content, maybe PSVR 2. Here's the thing, with 1 day advance notice, I'm sure a lot of PlayStation fans want to see God of War and stuff like that. And maybe they do, or maybe they have a God of War state of play plan for next month or something. I know people's like expectations get like wildly out of control for stuff. So I don't know. We'll see what Sony has to offer. You got a Nintendo Direct tomorrow and a state of play on the same day. It's kind of a lot. Let's see what other questions we got here. Just scrolling down, looking. Elitist wants to know if we think Xbox is going to bring back the XO event.
Yeah, I think they will.
I think
maybe
they will.
Not this year, but maybe the year after.
Yeah, I think they 100% they want to bring it back. I'm just not sure if it's this year. I mean, it's September. You would think if they were going to do one, it'd be November. I guess like if it's a digital event, they don't necessarily have to announce it that early. But if they want people, you'd have to like give people an amount of time to like block stuff off from work and travel if they want to. So I don't know about this year, but they definitely want to bring it back. I think they definitely want to do more events. I mean, they were hiring for that, and I think they hired like an ex-IGN person, Tina Amin, I think. If maybe I say her name wrong, but because they got all these games coming. I know like everybody's like, man, Xbox can't put out any titles, but some point all these games are going to come out. They're not going to be in development for 10 years. And, the days I think of Microsoft just having one show is kind of over. It made sense in the past because all their games were at the end of the year. But if you're running a thing where you want games all the time, you're doing your games and yourself a disservice not having smaller events to talk about it. I mean, Nintendo has, how many directs did they have this year? A couple, right? A few? PlayStation has a state of play whenever. They don't even really, the showcases are the bigger thing. Like, you have state of play here. But, like, I think what people wanted was a showcase. And I think it's just like Xbox is going to need to do more events. Because by the time, assuming nothing gets delayed, by the time we roll around to E3 next year in June, Xbox could have released 6 first-party games. And Starfield, Redfall, Diablo, Minecraft Legends deserve at least more spotlight or individual events they're going to have to do, I would think. So we'll see how that goes. But I do think they want to bring it back. Oh, look who's here. Special Nick showed up, Jez.
Oh, Special Nick.
Yeah, he showed up and says, GoldenEye at the Nintendo Direct, please.
Nah.
No, Jez, you say no, huh? You're breaking Nick's heart here. That's his Game of the Year candidate. He needs this.
I heard I heard GoldenEye was cancelled.
Oh yeah,
Shelves,
I
man.
like to hear that. GoldenEye canceled.
Oh, in fact, no, I didn't. I heard what they're doing is they're putting it on iOS, Apple Arcade, and it's going to be a free-to-play game with NFTs. That's what I
Oh,
heard.
that sounds
Yeah.
great. And it's going to
Well,
launch.
and
It's going to launch everywhere except Australia. So people in Australia would have to use a VPN to play it, right?
It's only going to launch in Australia.
It's only going to launch in Australia. Okay.
But the servers are going to be based in America, so it'd be really laggy.
We're just destroying Nick right now.
Oh man, I might watch GoldenEye. You know, my girlfriend's never seen James Bond.
Really? Well, you should introduce her to James Bond.
Yeah.
Carolina Gamer wants to know if we've seen the Crossfire update. I have not. Brad Myers says Facebook Home Entertainment got acquired. They got acquired? That just didn't get announced or something, Jez?
No, Focus acquired Blackmill Games.
Focus acquired Blackmill Games. Okay. What does Blackmill Games do?
Blackmill Games. Let's clickety click on that. Blackmill Game. Oh, they make Verdun, which is pretty good.
Verdun?
Okay, Verdun, yeah.
The game that I used to use as a synonym for shit when I would say I'm going upstairs to take a Verdun.
It wasn't that bad.
Oh, bro, it was bad. You know, we've talked about this on this podcast. I'd be like, yeah, I'm like, I need to go take a Verdun, and people knew what I was talking about. They knew it was a euphemism and a.
Dude, but it was made by like 12 people. They're a small dev. I think considering the size of the dev, I think it was all right. Better game than I could make with 12 people. But yeah, they required them, I guess. I think maybe they just think like, you know, maybe if we boost this team, maybe the Verdun brand could have something. Because everyone knows what it is, right? Even though it's not the best game in the world, it's kind of got a strong brand. Like everyone knows kind of what it is. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking shit. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah. DS Oma says, is Elder Scrolls Online ever coming to PC Game Pass?
I don't think so. Because you have to remember, these games are they're subsidized by their subscription. Like, and I know you can play Elder Scrolls without a subscription. You can play Fallout 76 without a subscription. But the subscriptions, like, that kind of is the business model. Like, I always see this argument like, oh man, I'd love it if World of Warcraft was available as part of Game Pass. But that's their entire business model. And if you take that away, then they're not as profitable and all those devs that work on the game, they're not being paid through that revenue stream. So I don't think these games will ever come to Game Pass. You know, maybe towards the end of their life, maybe, but I don't think anytime soon. No, there'll always be a sort of separate subscription on top of the regular one.
Yeah. What else we got here? Is that it? Is that all the questions? We got one here from Darren. Once all the 30 Microsoft studios are up and running, will Microsoft continue to devote time and resources for indie devs or abandon them like Sony did? I mean, I don't think they'd abandon them. I would like to think they wouldn't abandon them, but I guess you never can predict the future. So, I mean, they have the ID Xbox team and they like that. So I'm just gonna say no. Sasquatch says, with all the Series S they're selling, any update on the disc add-on? What is the disc add-on? This is another question we've gotten like last week. Are they actually gonna make a disc add-on for the Series S? Like, that doesn't make any sense, does it? Do you think?
What? Sorry, say that again.
He's asking us about with all the Series S's they're selling, any update on a disc add-on? Sasquatch in time.
I see this sometimes, and you know, there's kind of like an argument to be made that they could do it, you know, because I think USB 3 is fast enough to serve Blu-ray videos, maybe not in 4K, but it could definitely do 1080p. And I think like you could install a game off a disc with the Xbox Series S. I think they should do it. I actually think they should do it. I've got a USB disk drive for my my laptop because, you know, when's the last time you ever heard of a laptop with a disk drive? But every now and then still kind of need one for some things, you know. So I think they should do it. I might write an editorial on that because I get asked that question all the time. But yeah, it's interesting. I'll ask around about that. That's an interesting question.
Sherman Jacobs says, when will LG get the Game Pass app? That's a good question. I know it's only in the Samsung 2022 versions right now. Maybe it comes to the earlier Samsungs. I would imagine at some point they'll put it on a lot of the smart TVs, but who knows? You tried it out, right? You said it was amazing on the Samsung, right?
Yes, I did. I tried it out. And also around a little birdie tells me that it will be coming to other TVs in the near future too.
Okay, that's interesting. Mike says, any word yet on Deathloop coming to Xbox? I mean, me and Jez both think it's coming. It's being announced this week and then launching next week, I think. What we said.
I just said soon, Rand. Don't make people quote me.
I think it's being announced on the 15th and is going to launch on Xbox on the 20th. I'm
just saying soon. I'm just saying soon for the record.
For the record.
So if anyone wants to write that up, that's all Rand, not me.
It's too late because you've already been slothed. So.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Fred Wright wants to know what happened to Ubisoft Plus for Xbox. Yeah, Sony didn't talk. Ubisoft didn't talk about it at their show. We've seen the pictures of it on the back end of Xbox through that one Twitter account with the hard pronunciation of the name. I don't know. Maybe they announced it in November. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's clearly coming. Microsoft announced it at their beginning of the year, although it's taken a long time to get here. So, I don't know. But I think that's it. I think we've gone through everything. We're over 3 hours again, as usual, which is kind of crazy. But I want to thank each and every one of you who've been here for the show. We still have over 1,000 people watching like 3 hours later. We didn't go as long as Xbox Air. They went almost 4, so that's like, geez, I did so many hours of podcasting this week. I need a break. So thank you guys. Make sure you like the show. Subscribe if you're new. And if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, make sure you leave us a rating, 5-star, 1-star. You don't necessarily have to write one up. You can just like it. It really helps out the show. We love you all. And we will see you on Friday or Saturday, hopefully with more cool stuff to talk about. Right, Jez?
Yes, we will. Hopefully on Friday. I think Friday's good this week, Rand, my old buddy and my old pal. And maybe next week, some other cool stuff. I mean, it's only Monday, and it feels like there's already been a mountain of news. Yeah.
So we will see you on Friday this week for another Xbox 2 podcast. Thank you, guys. I usually say have a great weekend, but have a good rest of the week, and keep it gaming. Later.